To all my fellow viewers, how are you? Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining and watching this special encore viewing of KFWE or KFWV. You know, for me, it's the day after. You know the saying? The only way to cure a hangover is by a little bit more wine. L'chaim, sit back and enjoy. Hello, welcome to KFWV. Hello, welcome. We're here live at the winery, welcoming everybody KFWV or KFWE. For all of you watching, sit in tight, get ready for the ride. We're gonna have a blast. All right, let me explain a little bit about what we're doing tonight. First of all, make sure all of you have your social media ready. We got to show the world what we have going on. To the 3,000 plus people involved and tasting with us tonight, KFWE, thank you. Now, first and most important, if you haven't opened it, let me take this off, hold on. I did it on the video last, but we'll do it again. We don't need it, KFWV virtual. Now, for everybody who hasn't opened their bottles yet, go ahead and open your bottles. You're in here for the tasting. We need to let the wines breathe. Open your wines and let's get ready. All right, what we're going to be doing tonight. KFWV, we have 25 different wines. I got mine open. We're going to start. We're going to go through the process of drinking the wines, tasting the wines with all the winemakers, tasting great food that you are actually preparing with the chefs. And we're in for a ride. Relax, take your jacket off, kick your feet up, be the professional that you want to be, and enjoy.
Thank you, Joseph. Welcome everyone to KFWV Virtual. You guys are hopefully virtual. We are here in Avernus, Naomi's hometown. My hometown of Woodview. No connection to Woodview. Here we are live. We are live. I hope you guys have all your things ready. You have your intro. We're going to excuse my name is Esty. Well, you might know me from from and this is Naomi, of course, from Sunny Soil. And we have an excellent show planned for you. We've got some wine tastings, we've got some wine information, we've got some recipes. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm going to learn so much about wine. We are more than you've ever been able to learn at the conventional guest. I believe there's 25 different wines that we're going to focus on without the hustle and the bustle. You're going to be sitting back in your reclining chair in your house. No wines, and you didn't think we're able to get that kit. You can still learn about wine. You write everything down and then go on it. Absolutely, and we have also fabulous recipes that we'll prepare for you. If you're coming along with us, then you'll be able to follow our steps. Or if you're seeing these recipes for another time, we have them over here in the kit. You can take them whenever you like. We're going to show you kind of a demonstration. You're gonna see the camera. You're gonna think I saw people with a full lineup of different chefs joining us. For me, it's all that food. I love the work. It's always I love it. I'm glad someone who's going to be tuning in and joining us with a cooking segment as well. Absolutely, and we have one. I'm going to make dessert for you guys in the end. So we have that. We have an entire meal. Gabe Garcia has something really spectacular planned for you. That if you're cooking along,
be able to cook in real time.
We have Nia also from California joining us.
Yes.
From La Gondola.
We do, and we have Lior Lev Sercarz making a spice mix that can go, well, two spice mixes actually, because Naomi is the white and I'm the red wine.
Okay, he is fantastic. I've actually been to La Boite. He's the owner of La Boite, which is a spice house, and he's going to be making those really incredible
Let's see, but I want to see what you're going to make because this looks really good. We have some dumplings over here.
Yeah, we're doing dumplings. You know, Purim is all about, dumplings.
Yeah, because
right?
The hidden miracles.
Like the crepe luck. So we've taken it to a little bit of another level. It's really delicious, and who doesn't love a really good appetizer? Or if
I do.
You can do it with meat as well. We're going to do it with fish today, but you can do it with meat and put them in your soup.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, right. So, like a good old-fashioned crepe luck, but today we're going to call it
Is it the same
dumpling.
recipe if you're using meat?
It is the same recipe if you are using chicken.
Ground chicken,
ground
turkey.
chicken, ground turkey, and mixed turkey. It depends.
Yeah.
This is definitely on the lighter side. And what's great about this is we're cooking it has a little bit of wine in the ingredients. So,
of course.
because this is KFWV. That's right. You got it. Okay, so we're going to get started. Yes, you're going to cook along with me.
You tell me what to do.
So what I did was I'm just going to bump up the heat on this. So we have some onion sauteing over here. We are cooking in real time. This is like our kosher.com shows. This is a little bit, but we're live. And Easy does it all together.
Right here in Apron Masters. You guys have this recipe card in your wine kit, actually, that you can follow along with Naomi. We've got some onion sauteing
I've got some. Can you smell the onions?
I love that.
My grandmother used to say everything starts off with fried onions.
It does. I always say, something delicious is coming when you can smell the onions.
And now we're going to add in some garlic.
Even better.
Here, and some ginger. We're just going to get the aromatics. Isn't she great? She's such a good co-host. She cleans as well as talks with me and cooks, right? I'm going to put you to work.
Yeah.
So we want to get this to smell really good. You can smell the ginger start popping out, the garlic smell, all the aromatics are coming out. So we're going to add in a little bit of kosher salt, just kicks everything up a notch. Okay, here we are at Apron Masters. I've actually taught here before.
Yes, this is my first time here.
It's beautiful, right? I love it. I love it.
It is, and they have everything that you need. It's like all the equipment. So all over the place here.
See how that is coming together?
Yeah, it smells amazing.
I love this smell.
So
okay, so meanwhile, that cooks for a little bit.
Okay.
So let's start making our dumpling filling. So you can use really any protein. Like I would do a poultry. If you're going to make it meat, you could do chicken or turkey or blend.
Right.
Here we are using salmon, so it's going a little bit on the lighter side. So
and it's it's like it's perfect for Purim. I feel like Mazala dar dagim.
Right,
like
exactly.
I like having the fish there. I like this.
That. And we're also giving a Dvar Torah tonight. Too.
So we have the hidden miracle to symbolize the hidden miracle of the Purim story.
There you go. Everything at once. Okay, so now we're going to do some. This is panko crumbs. I like panko crumbs. It just
nice and crunchy.
Yeah, crunchy, but it also makes it fluffier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought much better than breadcrumbs.
All of this goes in?
Yeah, dump it all in.
Okay.
Okay, now let's add in the soya sauce, the wine.
Ooh.
Here, we're going to add soya sauce, wine. It's 1 tablespoon of wine, not 1 cup of wine. There was a bit of a typo in the recipe card, but
you can drink the rest of the cup. Just 1 tablespoon in here, and the rest of the cup
Esty
for
gets
you.
the rest of the cup.
Right.
Okay, there you go. And this is the wine we're actually using, which we'll talk about later on in the segment.
Okay.
Okay, pour that in.
This is what, sesame oil?
Sesame oil. You can smell it right away. And here we go with our fresh herbs. Smell that, Esty. Fantastic, right?
So is this parsley or
this is a blend of parsley
and cilantro?
And cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, you can use a little bit of parsley.
Full parsley.
Or you can just leave out the green herbs. I'm a big fan of cilantro, but not everyone likes it.
Right. It's like a genetic.
Yeah. I'd say it's not your fault you don't like it. It's your mother's fault.
No, it's not her fault either.
Because it's genetics. You get it from your parents. Okay, so we've mixed that up really well.
Oh, that looks good.
That looks good, right? And now we're going to add in our sauteed.
Oh, that flavor factor.
Oh, yeah. All this coming
together. The ginger
together.
and the garlic.
It's delicious.
Okay.
Now, meanwhile,
let's get some of these folding.
I'm going to put up a wok to boil because we're going to steam them.
Mix it up.
You mix them. The water is boiling in our wok. And we're going to put a steamer on top. You can also fry them if you want. You don't have to. Or boil them. You don't have to steam them, but it's really easy. You can just get a steamer on Amazon. You put down some parchment paper on the first layer. We'll just put the cover on for now. Okay, now we're going to start filling them. Okay. So
I've never done this before.
Oh, really? This is fun. This is fun. So you keep a wet paper towel or a damp cloth on them.
I removed that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. you know, because they can dry out fast.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take them apart. Here, you do one, I do one.
Okay.
Just put a little bit in the middle.
Okay.
Like that. And you hold it in your right hand.
So is that like a tablespoon?
Yeah. Now? And then you take some water. I say it like an American. Water. We're just going to close it over.
So the water kind of acts as a glue.
It's glue.
I describe it as like gluing an envelope shut.
Okay. But then we're going to give it a bit of a pinch and a fold. A pinch. We want to crimp it.
Oh,
pinch and crimp.
I didn't do that. Okay.
Pinch and crimp.
Oh, pretty.
So it makes it like a little pretty. It's a bit more like a dumpling.
Oh.
You see?
This is my first time. I've never done this before.
Okay, so, see?
No, I'm serious.
Now we have a whole tray here of dumplings. Okay. We got a head start. Esty, you did it really well on your first time. Okay.
No, I didn't. Not if you look close.
Have you really done that? Is that your first time?
It is.
Okay, she's amazing. You did that fast. Okay, what we're going to do now is you can also, instead of putting parchment paper, you can put down romaine lettuce leaves.
Oh.
Yeah, that's very authentic to do that.
Really?
Okay, we're going to put them down.
Okay.
Here we go.
Let's add them in here.
And we're going to steam them for like 20 minutes. That's how it goes. Just you fill them up.
Yeah, okay.
20 minutes. Then we take them off. We put them on a plate. Here we have our little, over here, here we go with our soya sauce, mirin, and sesame oil.
Oh.
We mix that up. Here we go.
And that's our dipping sauce.
And that's our dipping sauce. And here we go. Esty, here you go.
Can we do this? Can I taste it?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
eat. Amen.
Mmm.
It's really good, right?
Oh, I love this.
It's a really cute appetizer. You can make them in triangles if you want. Buy the square ones. Make a cute hamantaschen.
Yeah, if you fold them over into triangles.
All right, let's go have a drink.
I'm ready to learn about some
Let's
new
go
wines.
over. The first wine package is coming at you right now.
Hello everybody and welcome to the KFWV 2021. I am Moises Cohen, co-owner of LV Wines, together with my wife Anna. Today we will present you our Herenza Reserva 2014, which is part of our Herenza brand.
Hello, I'm David Cohen, second generation of LV Wines, and as my dad said, today we're going to talk about Herenza Reserva 2014. It's 3 years inside the winery. By law in Rioja, they're very strict about this. And actually, of those 3, 2 minimum have to be in the barrel. Actually, on this wine specifically, we do 100% Tempranillo, which is the most used varietal in Rioja. First of all, you will notice dark cherry color, very intense aroma, but the most important thing is when you put it in your mouth, underground vegetation, this mushroom, licorice, black truffles, this toasted smokiness, this perfect wine, and it will transport to this. At least this is what it does to us. This wine is being produced in the castle of Castillo de Zahav, which is the castle that started its building in 11th century. And we are in the region of Rioja and Rioja Alta, a region which is characterized by having a very long circle of the vine around the year, very long winters, very long summers. So it gets us to the perfect maturity point on the grapes. And actually the harvest is around October, even November sometimes.
November, yeah.
So we said actually it's 100% Tempranillo, not quite. It has 3% of Graciano, which is a different varietal, and that we use in this wine to boost up the acidity and to balance it. So this one is 97 and 3. When thinking about a pairing for this wine, we would go for pairing for affinity. So the easy choice would be you take a spiced meat with black truffles on top, open it, give it a couple hours, no decanting, nothing, just give it its time, let the bottle breathe, drink it and enjoy.
Buenos días a toda la comunidad de Roger Wine. Mi nombre es José Toso, soy enólogo y director de WHT. WHT es una empresa familiar, es una fusión de 2 familias unidas por la elaboración de vinos, por esta pasión de la elaboración de vinos, la familia Bernheim y la familia Toso. Hoy le presento nuestro vino, es Sforno Red Blend, es dentro de la línea Gran Reserva. Es un assemblage de 3 variedades, Malbec, nuestra variedad emblemática de Argentina, Cabernet Sauvignon y Cabernet Franc, un vino de un color rojo profundo con reflejos violáceos, de un aroma intenso de frutas negras y frutas rojas en vinculación, con un touch de madera por su paso por roble. Un vino de gran potencia de estructura, tiene un buen contenido alcohólico y una acidez equilibrada, lo que lo hace que sea un vino jugoso, expresivo y corpulento. La uva de este vino proviene de una de las zonas más altas de Argentina. Estamos a 1350 metros sobre el nivel del mar, muy cerca de la cordillera. Tenemos un clima de montaña, noches muy frías, una amplitud térmica de más o menos 20 grados entre la máxima y la mínima, ¿no es cierto?, en el periodo de madurez de la uva. Hualcayarí es una de las zonas más famosas dentro del Valle de Uco para la producción de vinos de alta gama. Cuando la gente prueba nuestros vinos, ¿qué esperamos? Que se sienta en el lugar de donde proviene, que la gente que deguste se sienta en Gualtallarí, en una montaña, en una altura, ¿no? Y que de una u otra manera todo ese tipo de aromas que aparecen en la naturaleza, de jariz, distintos especias que crecen en nuestra región, sean de una u otra manera transmitidas al vino y de esa manera lograr ese terroir, esa expresión de terroir.
Ciao from Italy. I'm Daniele Della Seta, owner and co-winemaker of the kosher and organic winery Terra di Seta, located in Tuscany region, in the heart of the oldest wine appellation in the world, the Chianti Classico. This wine is produced with 100% Sangiovese grapes, my favorite, selected and hand-picked from our own organic vineyards. Sangiovese grape is the Tuscan grape, which needs to grow in special conditions to give to the wine unique sensation of complexity, freshness and elegance. The vineyards from which this wine comes are located on a hill at about 1,600 feet above sea level, facing south in a very sunny natural amphitheater exposed to the wind. The soil surface is rather dry but is enough moist at depth, with consistent limestone rock. In summer, the breeze that comes from the far sea in the afternoon allow for significant temperature variations. This wine was aged for 18 months in French oak barrels and refined for other 6 months in the bottle. When we are producing this wine, we are looking for a wine that expresses the elegance that the Sangiovese grape can aspire to, as a true representation of a region where it is produced. And I believe that we have succeeded in this goal, because tasting this wine, you can smell the scent of the Mediterranean bush and its undergrowth, with a bouquet of violets, wild berries, black plums, cherry and tomato leaves, aromas of spices such as rosemary and thymes, light tobacco and chocolate. I love drinking this wine at the table during an important meal such as on Shabbos. This wine perfectly combines with elaborate meat and lamb dishes or aged cheese such as Parmesan. It can be kept in the bottle for years but must be allowed to breathe before behind service. Thank you very much for your attention, and we are waiting for you in Tuscany.
Welcome to Capsanas. I'm Jürgen. I'm part of the winemaking team in Capsanas. You find myself right now at one of our highest vineyards in Capsanas. Actually, this gives you a beautiful idea of our landscape. At the end, you see the Montsant mountain, the holy mountain, which gives the name to our area, Montsant. You see all terraces, they are 300-400 years old. The vines, they're up to 110 years old. And that's definitely part of the secret of Capsanas. Very old vines, a unique terroir high up in the mountains. As you can see right now, you find myself in the middle of the snow. So this is a really cold place, which is good for the flavor profile of the wine. Those ones are actually planted in 1940, so they're 75 years old. Grenache is part of the blend of Bereshabib. It stands for 35% of the wine. Old vines always means hand-picked, very low yield, very concentrated, intense, complex fruit. We have our barrel room. As you noticed, it's scattered, it's closed, it's sealed, so we have no physical and no visual contact with the wine itself. At the company, there's nobody Jewish. The way how we do the kosher, we try to make it like in the old days, like 4,000 years ago. We don't give any fining, we don't give any technique. Natural yeast, natural enzyme, natural bacteria. We try to keep the wines as intact as possible in its own proper, natural way. Bereshabib is a blend of 3 varietals. First of all, it's our queen varietal Grenache, Garnacha. Then it gets 35% of Carignana and 30% of Cabernet Sauvignon. The Cabernet gives the backbone, the Carignana the freshness, and the Garnacha gives this beauty, seductive red fruit flavor. And when it comes to oak aging, we keep it for 12 months in French oak, new 1 and 2 years old light toasted barrels. By the way, for your next bar mitzvah or wedding, we do Magnum, double Magnum, 5, 9, 12, 15 and 18 liters.
Jay Buchsbaum here with Royal Wine, and we're so happy you all joined us. And as my friend Erik, our co-host, would say, we're not here to tell you what you should taste. You should taste what you should taste. But we're really glad. The first wine is the LV wine, and an anecdotal story about this is that when they looked at the vineyards, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, they found a cave that had a mezuzah on it that dated back to before 14th century. So they've been making wine in this area for a long time. You already heard from Moises, and now I give you to Gabe Geller.
Hi everyone, this is Gabe Geller here with Royal Wine, the KFWV. I'm here with my co-hosts Jay Buchsbaum and Erik Segelbaum. Here we go.
Erik?
Well, hello everyone. It's absolutely a thrill and delight to be here. I'm Erik Segelbaum. I've been doing wine for the better part of 2 decades, and I'm so thrilled to be here with this esteemed panel to talk to you all about some of the amazing kosher wines that we are going to be exploring throughout this evening. So that's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Here's to you, l'chaim.
And the Sforno Gran Reserva comes from South America, from Argentina, made by the famous Riglos winery, a really well-heeled winery. I'm so glad that they agreed to make a kosher cuvee just for our community.
We're seeing more and more of that, Jay. I think, a long time ago, people thought kosher was Israel, and then kosher was Israel and some America. Now we're seeing so many incredible world-class wineries making kosher expressions. And in fact, we're going to taste a whole bunch of those tonight.
I would like to talk about the Capsanes here. Capsanes is an extraordinary story. It's a winery that became famous because they produced kosher wine. They're not a kosher winery, they produce kosher wine besides their non-kosher productions, and that's what made them famous all over the world.
And finally, the Terra di Seta is really, really wonderful because not only is the wine 100% estate, and not only is the wine 100% Sangiovese, but they also have a wonderful little bread and breakfast, which I'm ashamed to say I've never visited. But if you ever get to Italy, Maria and Daniela are wonderful hosts, and they can walk you through that. What do you think about this wine?
Well, so, this, apart from the fact that it's delicious, otherwise we wouldn't have even sent it your way. Obviously, that's a given. What I think is really interesting is Chianti has changed so much, especially from when you remember drinking those big wicker baskets. But more importantly, it's only in recent years that you could even legally have 100% Sangiovese in a Chianti. That was illegal for a very long time. In fact, you used to have white grapes like Malvasia. By law, that was the Chianti formula. So when they finally opened up the rules, I think it's made for a really exciting and enjoyable drinking experience, and it represented pretty well here with the Terra di Seta.
And finally, let's get back to the first wine. This winery is, we talked about some of the oldest wineries here with vineyards dating back centuries in some cases. This winery is the newest winery from Sforno, both in terms of the age of the winery, which is only a couple of years old, about 10, and the vintage is also, because it's South America, they have exactly the opposite vintage that we do. We harvest wines between August and late September, sometimes October, and they harvest wines January, February. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, it certainly makes it great for having a constant supply of current vintage wine, absolutely. Southern Hemisphere in winter, Northern Hemisphere in summer and fall. It's a perfect match.
All right. So why don't we actually taste the wines?
All right.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Tannins on the gums. At least that's what I feel.
There's a softness to this that we don't necessarily associate with Argentina very regularly, and I think that's very much worth noting. In terms of the Malbec and Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc all coming together, they really balance each other out really well. And I'll tell you, as a sommelier, balance is like the most important thing to me. It's the only thing I want in a wine is balance.
I wanted to show everybody, though, how much time and effort and technical know-how went into making these little samples. These little samples are actually sealed with a plastic, and then they're also sealed with a cap that has a concave end to it, which means that it goes right up to the top. So they were made under the perfect conditions so that it would approximate exactly what the full bottle of wine would taste like. And so I'm going to actually pour this out. All the others are pre-poured. Oh my gosh. The color is right for me. Smell is right on. taste is right on too, from what I recall from the main bottles. And so kudos to the people all over it, all the people at Herzog Wine Cellars in Oxnard for doing such a great job. And I understand that even all the non-kosher wineries surrounding them have started to copy their way of doing things. What do you think, Erik?
I mean, I couldn't be happier with that. Like I said, it's a really good start. If this is any indication of how the rest of this tasting night is going to go, I'm pretty happy.
You know what I think? I think this might become the norm instead of the COVID, norm. Well, thank you. We're going to get back to the food part of this. And before we do, though, the next thing that's coming up is a really special transition to somebody who is the spice king or the spice chef. And his name is Lior Lev Sercarz. Lior Lev Sercarz, he's going to be making or blending two spices that are perfect for red and white wine. So without further ado, let's see if Lior is around and he can tell us more about what he's doing for us.
Hi everyone, my name is Lior Lev Sercarz from La Poite in New York City. We're here at Spice Lab where we store, blend and mix and toast all of our spices from all over the world. I'm super excited to take part in this year's kosher food and wine virtual experience, and you guys are having lots of fun learning about wine and cooking and how they come together. We've been blending spices for the last 15 years from all over the world, selling them as is or creating really unique blends in the idea that people could cook with them at home or in restaurants, have lots of fun, and obviously drink lots of wine with their food. One of the big questions all the time is how do I pair food and wine and spices, what goes with what and what not. And I'm gonna make two blends for you today that I created for this event that could perhaps help a little bit with it. So first we're gonna do a blend called Zangvil, or ginger if you will, that has some anise seeds, coriander seeds, some ginger, caraway seeds, a little bit of cinnamon and some cayenne. And then our second blend called Avadi, which has za'atar leaves from Israel, a little bit of mint, nigella seeds, rose petal, and onion. Both these blends could work on many things, and we're gonna do them one by one. So for our Zangvil blend, we're gonna take our ginger powder that we have here, and you can get the recipes sent to you. We're gonna add the cinnamon and cayenne right there. And then we're gonna grind together the coriander, the anise, and the caraway into powder. And this blend would work really nicely with white wine, whether it is that you're roasting a fish or grilling some stone fruit. And here we go. We have our spice that's all ground up nicely. We're gonna add it into here and mix them up. You can keep this for up to a year in a jar, and as I said earlier, use it on either poultry or fish or vegetables or stone fruit. Serve it with some beautiful white wines, whether they're more on the dry side, whether they're sparkling, and that will work and complement really nicely the fruit aspect, the acidity from the ginger, and a little bit of heat kind of to give a nice contrast to your white wine. The second blend that I would like to show you has, as I mentioned earlier, some za'atar leaves that we're gonna put here into our spice grinder. And this blend would go really nicely with red wines. Obviously, red wines have lots of different categories, but across the board, with light to full body wines, this could work really nicely, whether you're cooking meat, whether it's lamb or poultry or beef, grilling or roasting, or whether you just want to cook some heartier dishes, stews, soups, and use this blend. I'm just going to grind it just a little bit, so it's all mixed up and nice. There we go. Then we're going to add our onion into it. The only thing I'm not going to grind is our nigella seeds. So I'm going to add these into here and grind them up. I find it really lots of fun to play around with different spices from all over the world and taste them with wines. Some of them could really clash with each other, but take you to a third place that otherwise you wouldn't get. You could also work on the more traditional pairing and mimic a certain flavor to go with the spice flavor. Whatever it is that you choose, I really want to invite you to play around with spices in your cooking and the wine, and find this really nice balance so that they work together. So here we have this beautiful herbaceous blend with the za'atar, and it smells fantastic, with the crunch from the nigella seeds and the onion. So a real savory kind of dish that would work really nicely with your red wines. So here we have it, our Vadi blend with the za'atar and nigella, and our Zangvil with the ginger. White wine, red wine. You can even try to play and mix and match. Who knows, it might work. Wishing you a great rest of your events. Lots of wine, lots of food. Drink responsibly, have fun. Love and spices.
Thank you, Lior. That was great.
That sounds amazing.
What are you going to put those spices on?
So the beauty of the spices is that they can be used for anything. I feel like the red wine one kind of lends itself more toward beef or
ribs,
steak, for sure. While the white wine spice profile kind of would work really well with fish or with chicken or lighter flavors like that.
Right, maybe roasting some vegetables. I think would add a really
that would be amazing
flavor
because
profile.
there's such fragrant herbs that are used in there.
Right,
love it.
I feel like I can smell it all the way from over here on camera.
Yeah,
right? Okay, so we've got a whole bunch more wine education coming up.
We
and
do have
some
wine.
more cooking classes.
Cooking classes. We actually are going into a cooking demonstration by Nir. You might remember him from our skillet cooking competition.
Yeah.
Very, very talented chef. He's actually the chef and owner of La Gondola.
One of my favorite restaurants in California.
And he's going to show us one of the most popular dishes that he makes, which is
tuna tartare.
I love tuna tartare.
Okay guys, this is Chef Nir from La Gondola in Beverly Hills. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I really hope you guys are having a great time watching the show, enjoying the show. When they approached us, they asked us, hey chef, will you make us a great recipe that our guests can enjoy? So we brought in a recipe that I know a lot of our clients like, a lot of our friends enjoy, whether they make it at home or we do it at events or at the restaurant. So we're going to introduce you to our dish called the spicy tuna tartare. One of our healthier choices, one of our more fun choices. And I think something you'll enjoy, and you'll be able to do it while you're watching. So you'll be able to have your great Herzog wine in one hand and our tuna tartare in the other hand. We are going to go and prepare our tuna. Like I mentioned, our tuna, some places will come as fillets. These are like little loins, or some will come as frozen steaks. And if you're lucky, you can find them at your local market as a ground tuna. I personally like to buy them as our own fillets. We actually cut the whole loin, we cut it ourselves, and then we vacuum pack it. But it's very simple, and don't be afraid of it. All you're gonna do is take the tuna, take a spoon, and you're just gonna grate it just like that. Very, very simple. You might want to even throw it in a freezer for a few minutes to give it some texture so it freezes, and that's it. It's very simple. You don't need to put it in a food processor like some people say to do. Not a big fan of that. And that's it. It's all a little crumble. Some of the bigger pieces, you can literally with your hand just take them apart. Sometimes you can just take a knife. But this is what you're brought with. Your Chinese tuna. So once we have our tuna ready, we get ourselves a bowl. We take the tuna. Here, we already pre-size them. Kind of mush it open. We get our pickled ginger that we said is going to pre-chop it. We're going to throw it inside. Our soy sauce, about 1 to 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 1 to 2 tablespoons of our sesame oil. And some of our green onions. And then with a spoon, probably like a half a teaspoon of mayo, which in our business, we almost use it as a little bit of a glue to keep the tuna together. And that's really all it takes. Just nicely mix it together. Add a little spice to it if you like it spicy. You can add sriracha. We already pre-spice our sesame oil with, we fry it with chili pepper. And there you go, folks. It's that simple. Literally just putting it together. The mayo is actually an optional. If you're not into eggs, you don't like mayo, you want to try to keep the calories down, you don't even really need it if you can eat it right away. So here at La Gondola, we actually serve it as an appetizer, and we get a little fancy with a basic ring, which you can make these yourselves from plastic. Keep yourself a little, like a 16-ounce actually soda bottle. You can cut it if you want to play with it. At home, you can literally just take the chips, stack it on top like that, kind of like a little nacho. Or for those for the adventure type, you're going to put your ring, you're going to take the tuna, put it inside. And some of the fans, you can actually find these rings online even. There's a thing that you guys might not know of called Amazon that has every little secret and every little trick of the book there. And that's pretty much it. You just put all the tuna inside, kind of pat it down, and voila, we have our little tuna tartare. And then we can get fancy with our little chips. Those who want to substitute the chips, you can get cucumber chips. Take a fresh cucumber, slice it into little rings. There you go. Little garnish. You can never have too many green onions. And there you go, folks. The La Gondola tuna tartare. At your home with KFWE, enjoying a phenomenal red wine or a white wine. Maybe just a good old scotch. Whatever KFWE is going to throw at you. Enjoy it. L'chaim. Miss you guys. Hopefully we'll see you next year, bigger and better. Until then, Chef Nir from La Gondola in Beverly Hills. Guys, can't wait to see you again soon. Thank you.
Welcome to the KFWE 2021 virtual tasting. I'm Jean-Philippe Archambault, winemaker and general manager at Château de Centenay. So the wine style at Château de Centenay, what we try to express, obviously we do respect the soils. We are farming some very original terroir. We have been certified Terraviti since 2004. So we are very careful with the soil and respect all the environment. Château de Centenay is a beautiful estate located in Burgundy, in Centenay. We are farming with sustainable agriculture, quite a very nice vineyard located in Côte Chalonnaise, Côte de Beaune and Côte de Nuit. And today for our virtual tasting, we are going to taste some Mercurey 2019. This is coming from a very special vineyard called Bois de l'Allier, so it's a sort of single plot vineyards. So it's a Chardonnay, obviously, because as you know, in Burgundy we are only farming Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So this is typical Chardonnay from Burgundy with a lot of mineral taste and at the same time great richness. So this one was made very traditionally, fermented in barrel and then aged for a few months in barrel. About food and wine pairing, I think my ideal match would be this wine, Mercurey 2019, with some grilled crayfish or grilled lobster. So this Mercurey is coming from a very special vineyard called Bois de l'Allier. It's a very high altitude vineyard, meaning that the wine is very fresh. And that's the beautiful thing about Chardonnay in Burgundy. You get at the same time freshness and richness. We are very happy to have made this wine with Menarem and his team. We started working with them with this vintage 2019 and we hope to continue. Last year in 2020 we did some new very fabulous appellations like Chambol and Musigny. So enjoy your tasting and we'll see you next year, hopefully at not virtual tasting.
I am Henri Parent, owner and director of Château Monvielle in Pomerol. We are making wine in Pomerol, Lavande de Pomerol and Argentina since 35 years. We are well known to produce top quality wines because we have only one target, quality and not quantity. Since 20 years, we are producing Monvielle in partnership with Royal Wine. We are very proud of that partnership. Every day we share our expertise with the Cashier technical team to make a sweet Merlot and Cabernet Franc wine. Around 80% Merlot and 20% Cabernet Franc. The 2018 vintage is great, really great. The weather was perfect, raining in the winter and the sun in the summer. And Monvielle is situated in a large type of different terroir, summarized of Pomerol in some way. The wine is fruity, elegant and powerful. The barrels that we use are from the top quality of our suppliers. Since a few years, we are also producing Royaumont in La Lande de Pomerol, with also the collaboration of winery wine. Have a nice tasting.
From the heart of the iconic gravelly terroir of Saint-Julien, we are delighted to present the 2017 vintage. Ideally located, the vineyards of Château-Léoville-Poiferré embrace the shoreline of the Gironde estuary, sparing them from the devastating spring frosts of 2017. The remainder of the season unfolded peacefully with a couple of heat spikes in July and lots of sunshine in August. Perfectly timed spells of rain in September allowed each variety to reach optimal ripeness and tranquil picking without any disease pressure. And what a pleasure to be able to uncork the 2017, with all of its juiciness, smooth tannins and moderate structure, offering you a wine that you will be able to appreciate sooner than his immediate peers. A perfect pairing to a rich pan-roasted duck breast with a black cherry glaze.
I'm Alexander van Beek and I represent Château Giscourt. We're extremely proud to be a partner and being an active member at the Kosher Food and Wine virtual experience. We have a long-standing relationship with Royal. We've been working for more than 24 years, nearly every single year, producing a delicious Giscourt. And also in the latest vintages, we're extremely happy, and I will be very happy to share this great wine with you on the property or wherever you are in the world. What do you have to know the 2017 vintage? It's a vintage with a lot of challenges. It was a vintage that we had to overcome the frost, what actually gave a very interesting perception to our wine. The frost hit us on all our lower parts of our parcels, but therefore truly gave an expression of our historical terroirs. It was specifically the Cabernet Sauvignon what gave a big part of the personality in the wine, where we were able really to capture the sensitivity of the Cabernet with a lovely fruity attack, very soft and gentle, and with a lovely freshness what just transports you with a very nice acidity through the wine. It will be a wine that will be very approachable also when it's young, it can be quickly enjoyed, especially if you decant it an hour before consumption. And it will also be a wine that will be delicious in 5 or 10 years. But do open it and enjoy it. Thank you very much.
All right, Gabe Getter here again with Erik Segelbaum. I'm really honored to be here with Erik, an advanced sommelier, one of the best in his class in this entire country, in the world, I would say, actually.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind.
No, really, I'm serious. We have a great set of French wines here. We have a white wine from Burgundy. We have 4 wines from Bordeaux, from the north to the south of Bordeaux, from the right bank, the left bank, Sauternes as well. We changed the order a little bit, but of course, there is a reason for that. So we have Château de Centenay, Château Monvielle, Pomerol, Château Léoville-Poiferré, Saint-Julien, Château Giscourt, Margaux, and Château Guiraud, Sauternes. I had to say it because, again, it's French, right, Erik?
Take advantage of your French skills when you can. Well, you know, the thing about it is wine is an ever-living, ever-changing thing. So it stands to follow that, of course, we're going to change the order, but we did it for a reason. We wanted to take you, after we taste our white Burgundy, through a tour of Bordeaux from right bank to left bank, and then north to south. So that's the reason for a little bit of a change from your package, but follow along with us and you'll understand why.
All right, so we have Château de Centenay, which is a white Burgundy, a Chardonnay.
You know,
the Mercury appellation, I'm sorry.
No, pardon me. So many people, myself included, when I was, well before I was a sommelier, I can remember very vividly being like, wait, Burgundy can't be white. Burgundy is the name of a red color. Well, Burgundy very much can be white. And in fact, some of the best white wines of the world are white Burgundy. Now, here's a pro tip for you. If it's white and if it's from Burgundy, it's almost always 100% Chardonnay. There's like a tiny exception, but we're not going to focus on that.
That's right. So why don't we give it a sniff, right?
And you know, while you're doing that, while you're tasting at home, this label, this bottle might be confusing for you, and I'll tell you why. So the appellation or the region in Burgundy is called Mercure. Now that's towards the south in the Côte Chalonnaise, but the producer is Chateau de Santenay, and Santenay is in the Côte de Beaune. So don't worry about that word Santenay. That's just the name of the estate. That's where the winery is based, but the grapes for this came from a little further south from an appellation called Mercury. Seems great that we just went to Mars and now we're talking about Mercury, right?
That's right. By the way, speaking of Mercury, usually most wines from Mercury are red wines, Pinot Noir, and we have here Chardonnay, so that's a little bit unusual.
You know, we like to do things differently, right? So let's go to Bordeaux, yeah?
Let's go to Bordeaux.
Okay,
absolutely.
perfectly. You know, we're starting on the right bank with the Pomerol, and I like that because most people start with the left bank, and we like to do things differently. The other thing I love about Pomerol is it exists on Merlot. I mean, honestly, Merlot is the most important grape of left bank or right bank. And thanks to that movie that I won't name the name of, but you know the one I'm talking about, Merlot doesn't quite get the credit that is due. So whenever you're right bank, it's always going to be Merlot and Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Sauvignon just doesn't grow very well there. And I think this is a stellar example of that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, another thing that's a source of confusion for a lot of people is that you hear a lot about classifications. The French love to classify their wines, and Bordeaux is no exception. There's a classification for the Médoc. There's a classification for Pessac-Léognan. There's a classification for Saint-Emilion. But in Pomerol, there's no classification. The most expensive wines are on the same classified level as the least expensive wines because there is no classing whatsoever. So with Pomerol, it's all about finding a wine you love and sticking to it. And this is, again, a really great example.
And actually, one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive wine from Bordeaux is Petrus, which is in Pomerol. You know, the Pomerol producers always like to say, "Oh, we are very close to Petrus," but they're all very close to Petrus because it's a tiny, tiny region.
I love it. Yeah, you hear that all the time. Fantastic. All right. Well, shall we hop down the plateau into the riverbed of the left bank?
Absolutely.
All right. So, I mean, Léoville Poiferé.
Léoville Poiferé Saint-Julien, second cru classé, second class growth, majority Cabernet Sauvignon.
I'm not even going to spit that. So when you hear those terms, it's a really common term for the left bank, that Médoc classification. First growth, second growth, third growth, fourth growth, fifth growth. We don't have time to get into that now, but just know this. In 1855, when that classification was made, it was done just on the price and value of the wines, which was 100% tied to quality because there was no Instagram marketing. There was no globalized economy. So the more expensive wines got higher rankings. Léoville Poiferé is a second growth, one of the best. And I think you can taste that.
Absolutely. Then we're still staying in the left bank, but we're going a little bit further south to Margaux with Château Giscourt. Château Giscourt was the first class growth in Bordeaux to produce a kosher wine in 1993. And so far it's going great. We have a great set of vintages the past few years. That's the 2017, the latest release, and quite a beautiful wine. I find the wines from Margaux to be a little bit feminine, as they say. What do you think about that affirmation, which is quite common?
Yeah, it's a language we hear a lot when talking about wines, and I equate that to a definition of just smooth, rich elegance, intense, and absolutely beautiful. So yeah, really, really fantastic stuff. You know, a lot of people confuse Margaux as the region with Chateau Margaux, which is one of the first growths from that 1855 classification. And guess where it's from? Margaux. But this is, as Gabe mentioned, the first classified kosher wine in all of Bordeaux. And I think they blazed a really great trail for a lot of other wineries to follow along with.
That's for sure. And then we are ending on a sweet touch with Chateau Guiraud. You know, in the world of kosher wine, sweet wines have gotten such a name for themselves as being unsophisticated. There is a wrong perception that sweet wine is not good wine, is not refined wine. And it couldn't be more wrong to say such a thing. With the wines from Sauternes, for example, are some of the best dessert wines in the world. They're not cheap at all. They're so good, right, Erik?
Absolutely. You know, and that's not just true of the kosher world. The entire wine world doesn't give credit where credit is due to sweet wines. And you know, Sauternes is one of the most perfect examples of some of the most highly coveted sweet wines. By the way, these are wines that will age 30, 50, 80, 100 years. If you haven't had really old Sauterne, you are missing out on a really great part of life. A lot of or people don't really understand what's actually in here. Sauterne's Sauvignon Blanc, blended with Semillon almost always, but that has been infected by what we call noble rot, or if you want to get technical for my trivia night friends, Botrytis cinerea. Basically, this fungus drinks the water out of the grapes and concentrates all the acid, all the flavor, all the sugars, and leads us to the incredible elixir that you have here. And one of my favorite wines to have with Israeli cuisine, which is a perfect time to talk about my dear friend Michael Solomonov, who is coming up next. He's going to be showing you a new take on tabbouleh and chicken schnitzel. He is an absolutely incredible chef. If you've ever been to his restaurants in Philadelphia, I had the pleasure of working right next door to Zahav, so I spent a lot of time there, but you are really in for a treat. So follow along and happy cooking.
I am so excited to be here at KFWV 2021. We are going to make some amazing schnitzel with tabbouleh and tuna, and I know you just got a good demo from my friend Lior Lev Sercarz, so we're going to do this right now. I hope you guys enjoy it. We've got a couple things going on right now. We've got our schnitzel, which we're going to use chicken. In this little batter, this rub, we've got the egg wash, we've got paprika, we've got hawaj, which is a Yemenite soup spice. And I've been soaking the chicken in that for a couple hours. What's cool about this is that the egg wash actually acts as a brine. So it tenderizes, it marinates, and you don't really have to do that much to it. You can use whatever spices you like. I'm a big fan of the Yemenite soup spice, but you can use like paprika, you can use, I don't know, tons of black pepper. You don't have to use any spice at all if you don't want, even though I think you should. A little biased, as is Lior. All right, and we're just going to roll this in a little bit of matzo meal that I actually mixed with sesame seeds. I like a ton of the sesame seeds in my matzo meal. You can use nigella seeds. You can use even whole cumin seeds, which are really, really awesome as well. You're just going to kind of shake it off. All right, and then drop it in. Now I know that you guys are like, oh, you didn't flour it first. That's totally okay. I like with this egg brine, you basically don't need any extra flour. And there's nothing worse than cutting into schnitzel and having all of the breadcrumbs sort of fall off. So I think when you do when you sort of eliminate that flour stage, the flour egg wash breadcrumb, you eliminate the first stage, you get this really nice, really sort of thin, really, really crispy exterior. All right, and I'm just going to do this. We're going to throw this in. I'm frying at about medium-high heat. I want this to be really golden brown, and I want it to be nice and even. I don't like it. You know, my mom is an amazing chef, but she used to sometimes fry the schnitzel too quickly, and you'd get this sort of like charred exterior with not a lot of even brown. And I really want that. So, well, these guys are cooking up. I use chicken breast. You can use a little chicken thigh if you want, sliced up really thin. You can also use some chopped up eggplant or sliced eggplant, sliced zucchini, even sliced pumpkin would make really, really, really fantastic schnitzel if you want to make it vegetarian. All right, let's put these guys down. Okay, now, while our schnitzel is frying, we're going to whip up a little bit of our kale tabbouleh. Now this kale, I cut and I've salted and I've sort of massaged, okay? Which I know sounds kind of cheesy, but honestly, if you cut and salt and move the kale around, it breaks down a little bit and gets really, really nice and not super like crispy to the point where you choke on it. I always hate that about the kale salads, right? We always end up with these like pieces stuck in your throat. You're trying to have like an important lunch meeting with somebody, and you're also like, it sounds like you're coughing on a hairball. We don't want that with our kale. So you do a little pre-salting, a little massaging, works out really, really nicely. We're going to chop up walnuts in place of bulgur wheat, right? Which not only are crunchy and delicious, and thematically makes sense since we're going to use apple, so it's this sort of North American take on tabbouleh, but now it's also gluten-free, which is, you know, which a lot of people are. So You can use walnuts, you can use almonds, you can use cashews, sunflower seeds, but they make a really nice sort of bulgur wheat replacement. The walnuts I love because they're really, really sort of rich and kind of earthy, which I feel like is what you get from good bulgur wheat. So we're going to chop this guy up nice and fine. We're going to throw this in. Okay, we're going to add a touch more salt. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of apple. And this is what happens when you try to open an Israeli restaurant in Pennsylvania. You don't have cucumbers and tomatoes most of the year, so you have to do things like, you know, kale and apple tabbouleh, which end up working out pretty well. I mean, we get kale, you know, 12 months out of the year, which is fantastic. Walnuts make sense. The apples, you know, you can always substitute for something else. Corn would be really, really good. In the summer, obviously, tomatoes too. Even like fava beans, I think English peas would be really good. But what you want is this really green, sort of bright salad. And you can achieve that with lemon juice and kale or mustard greens. You know, it doesn't have to just be parsley and dill, even though that's very traditional. So we're going to do this apple. We are going to hit it up with a little bit of lemon juice and then a little bit of olive oil, which I actually got Lior, speak of the devil, to send me from his dad's farm in the Galilee. So now that we're all really good friends with Lior, you can ask him to hook it up. Tell him, Moshe, send me some olive oil from the Galilee. It's really, really good. These are Suri olives, so they're like kind of bitter and kind of funky, but really, really delicious. We're going to add a lemon right here. Okay, let's get this guy around. Nice, we'll save that. And then we're going to add actually a little bit of lemon juice to this bowl. Right here, we're going to make a little bit of tahina for the schnitzel, right? Because tahina sauce with schnitzel is like, I don't know, like yin and yang, like we need this. You have to have this, right? We don't do dairy with schnitzel, right? Because it's chicken. So the tahina is super, super important. You just add a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of cold water, almost equal parts to the tahina, because we want it to be nice and airy and really saucy. A little bit of ground cumin. All right, which is optional, obviously. I really like it. All right, while that's happening, let's give a schnitzel a flip. Look at that, beautiful. Nice and crispy. Turn this guy up a little bit. All right. So, I'm going to go salt. And then we're just going to whisk this up to make a sauce that is slightly runny, which is okay. And you guys know the thing about tahina is, until you start adding liquid to it, it's kind of, I mean, it's delicious in its raw form, but it also does not look super appetizing. All right, so you want to whip a nice amount of water into it. Out of here. Good. Give it a taste. Really, really good. Super bright. I'm just going to grab a spoon and do just a little bit of this. We'll scrape the rest of this. Now there's a fine line, like what you don't want is super thick. You know, you want it to be sort of saucy and a little bit runny, but you don't want it to be straight water, okay? All right, but this is really good because not only is this a good sauce for the schnitzel itself, but this mixed with some of the kale while you're eating it is going to be fantastic. Okay, so sauce is ready to go. Stick this over here. Let's give this kale salad a nice little toss. Beautiful. Yeah, and like I said, the massaging really helps this out. This really sort of softens it, but it'll also hold the dressing really, really nicely. And what's nice about kale is that it's so hearty, you can make this even a day ahead. I wouldn't add the apples or anything like that, but you can make this a day ahead, which would be, when you're prepping for a big party, to have the ability to make a salad in advance, I think is really useful. And not only that, like a soup or a stew, this tabbouleh actually improves overnight. Okay, so we've got our kale salad ready to go. We've got our tuna ready to go. Let's take out our schnitzel and give it a quick drain. Use this fork. Okay, just for a second. You can see nice and even. Boom. Set it away. Throw the kale down. Over here. All right. And then we will do a little bit of our tuna sauce. So simple. If you guys want to add some garlic to this, you can. If you want to make this in a food processor, you can. You can actually just add a little bit of garbanzo beans to it and make really, really good silky hummus. But that is it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Guys, thank you so, so much. One more shot. I'm going to eat this in a second over the sink. If you guys need these recipes, all of them can be found on kosher.com. Enjoy the rest of the expo, and I will see you soon. Thanks.
We are back from Apron Masters. We are live here in Woodmere. I'm Naomi.
I'm Esty. In case you're tuning in right now, we're just going to catch you up. We watched this wonderful food demonstration. We're following along here with our recipe cards. We had some schnitzel, some kale, apple, walnut, and sumac onion tabbouleh. And this actually is a great recipe for Pesach. I know we're all in Purim mode right now, but Pesach is right around the corner. It's always Pesach season
It's always
for
Pesach
Naomi.
season for me, yeah. So yeah, we're drinking, we're eating, and we're watching along.
And we are going to send it right off to Gabe. We have a very exciting recipe in multiple steps that's going to happen in real time. So if you're cooking along with Gabe, you want to get your stuff ready because his step is coming right up, the first step in this recipe.
Welcome everybody to KFWV. I'm Chef Gabe here at Tierra Sur, and we're going to be cooking steak with a mushroom-filled crepe. Now here we go. Hopefully you guys back home got all your mise en place ready to go because we're going to get started and we're going to go quick.
Let's do it.
Okay guys, let's start with the crepe. So we're going to start with 1 cup of buckwheat flour. So buckwheat flour, small bowl, make sure you have a whisk. We're going to crack 2 eggs. 2 eggs. Here we go. We're going to add 1 cup of oat milk. The recipe calls for milk, but of course we're a kosher restaurant, non-dairy, so you can use soy milk, almond milk, whatever is best for you. Just going to add that in there. We're going to add margarine, but of course we're going to melt it a little bit. It's 1 tablespoon of margarine. All right, Ed, you want to cut back over here? 1 teaspoon of salt. Let's get that margarine melted. So we have our melted margarine here, guys. I'm going to scrape that in there. And we're just going to whisk this all together. Make sure everything's nice and incorporated. So, right away when I made this recipe, I thought this recipe was a little thick. So right away, we're going to add a little bit of water to this. We're going to add a little bit of water to thin this out. So you can see it come together, guys. And it's got some thickness and some body. So with any crepe batter, you want to make sure you let it rest. So we're going to rest this in the fridge for 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to start making some crepes. Okay, we're going to put this. All right, Ed, I'm going to transfer it in a quart container. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, guys, so we have our crepe batter. We're gonna go let it rest in the fridge for about 10 minutes. Behind, guys. All right, we're cut to there, right? Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys, now that the crepe batter's resting, it's not quite done yet, all right? So we're gonna shave some time here and we're gonna start on our mushroom doxel. So we're gonna get those roasted. Just make sure your oven's ready to go at 375, just so we can do some roasting of the mushrooms, okay? So let's get started. So you're gonna need a bowl, a mixing bowl, real nice. Now these mushrooms are particular, I chose because of the flavor and the smell. These are called hen of the woods. These are amazing, meaty, very earthy. They have almost like, how do you say, a meat taste to them. Now, if you can't source these, portobellos are just as fine, just as great. You can add a little shiitake, it's up to you. Shiitake have more of a pungent flavor, but hen of the woods, if you can, please find them. Now, I'm tearing these apart in these big, I don't know, let's say like 1/4 inch chunks. And I would have probably about almost close to 2 pounds here. Now, this is one of those things, if you're a mushroom lover, go ahead, make extra. Don't cheat yourself, yeah? So these are just gonna get roasted with a little bit of olive oil, right? Salt and pepper. And we're just gonna toss these up, right? Make sure they're nice and coated. And we're gonna roast these, like I said. Here we go, I have a sheet pan. And let's go put these in the oven. Corner. So this is a convection oven, so we got a fan going. So it's like around 375 we're gonna set it up to. We're gonna let those roast for about 8 to 10 minutes.
This looks really good.
I love crepes. Whenever I see crepes on a menu in a restaurant, I always order them. I also love to make them as well. And buckwheat crepes is really something different. Gabe is roasting some mushrooms, and I'm always a big sucker for mushrooms.
I love mushrooms. This actually looks like a fabulous recipe. What I love is that you kind of have them in your kitchen with you because we're cooking in real time together. I mean, we're not, but you are. So it's like having a professional chef right in your kitchen.
It's so fantastic. And we get to drink our wines and learn about wines. And right now we've got some wines coming up from Israel. We are all so excited to learn more and more about Israel wines. They have such an incredible selection here at the KFWE with great educators. Right back at you guys. Can't wait to hear more.
Hi guys, my name is Iftach. I'm the chief winemaker of Carmel. Today we will be tasting the Mediterranean 2017 of Carmel Winery. It's a great blend made from Syrah 40%, Carignan 22%, Mourvedre approximately 20%. The grapes come from the Upper Galilee and a small amount from Iron Valley. It's characterized by a flora mediterranea, which means a lot of oaks, orchard, aromatic herbs like za'atar, like marva, sage. Amazing. Inspiration for this great wine came from the iconic blends of the Rhone Valley, like Chateauneuf du Pape. different layers of flowers and fruit, black fruit, red fruit, flowers like cyclamen, aromatic herbs like sage, which represent the vineyards. For me, this wine represents perfectly our work in Israel. Although the inspiration was the iconic blends of the Rhone Valley, but we managed to make here some very Israeli blend, which we are very proud of. A lot of layers of fruit, a lot of layers of flowers. The balance between the volume, the acidity, and the silkiness in this wine is perfect.
Hi everyone, my name is Lior Levinson, Master of Wine. I've studied and worked in Italy, France, and Australia and Israel, and I'm the chief winemaker of Barkan since January 2017. So the wine I will be presenting today is the Winemaker's Choice Cabernet Sauvignon 2017. It comes from the Upper Galilee, from few chosen vineyards in different terroirs that combine together after 18 months of barrel aging, are providing what I'm personally really looking for in Cabernet Sauvignon from the Upper Galilee, which is power, well balanced by finesse. It was aged by 18 months of aging in French oak barrels, added some complexity and flavor and length to this wine, and it recently won the best Cabernet Sauvignon in Israel in the Best Value competition in Tel Aviv. Well, the inspiration for making this wine, for me personally, working in a big winery, is the ability to provide you with a wine that is both, in my opinion, impressive, big, concentrated and rich, quite ripe, and on the other end, it's it shows very high drinkability. So it's on one hand it's a powerful wine, on the other hand it drinks nicely along the evening, it pairs beautifully with lots of different types of food, and making this wine in a rather high quantity but at a very, very affordable price was my goal, and I hope you will find this wine successful in that sense.
Hi guys, Jonathan Schotz here, Chief Winemaker at Binyamin Wines and The Cave. This is my 7th year here at the winery, and today we will be presenting to you the Diamond wine from the Chosen series. 2017 vintage was a very challenging vintage. The ripening season was very hot, all the way through from early June all the way to the end of August was very hot during the ripening stage. So we've got here 14.5 alcohol. Lovely fresh nose of red fruits, cherry, nice red fruits coming in, well balanced with the acidity. You feel the oak coming in nicely. It's been for 1.5 years in the barrels, French and American barrels. Nice long end. What is challenging about making and enjoyable in making the diamond wine is that challenge which we as winemakers have from year to year. It's the variability of the harvest. Every year is different, and so if one year I had 50% of Cab Sav, the next year I'll have 55% of Cab Sav. Is finding that consistency from year to year. I really enjoy that in the wine. This will go great with a Denver steak, fried asparagus, some potatoes. Enjoy, guys.
Today we will taste the Flamme Noble 2017. The Flamme Noble is grown in our very best plots in the Upper Galilee and the Judean Hills. The 2017 vintage is characterized in very good and concentrated red to currant fruit, red fruit. The wine is long and velvety. So we are here in the Judean Hills, and as you can see behind me, you can see the Judean Hills mountain. We are in a very high elevation, which means most of the vineyards are planted on elevation of 700 meters above sea level. This elevation gives us a very unique conditions for growing top quality vineyards, which means during the night the temperature drops, and during the day in the summer we have a very moderate daytime temperature. The vineyards are characterized by unique soils, which means we have a shallow Terra Rossa soil on the top, and underneath we have limestone. These soils gives particular conditions for growing the grapes, which means we have a very good drainage, and this gives us the ability to make more concentrated grapes and in a very low yields per hectare. At the end of the day, we have a great quality grapes for making the Noble. So the biggest challenge in making the Flamme Noble is actually to identify the plots which are performing the best, and then to blend the top plots and to really show you, actually, the wine lovers, the beauty of every vintage we had in these plots.
So now you guys mixed up the French, right?
Yeah,
so I
sure
think
did.
I can mix up this one too.
Mix it up a little.
So we're
Jay.
going to start with the Barcan first. But before we get to the wine, I got to tell you a little bit about this. In the old days, the French winemakers would go down to the cellar, and there would only be enough candlelight to see the wine. So it.
Getting feedback. Take it off.
Okay, I'm going to take it off.
Stop playing.
And they would only get enough light to see it if they poured it in here, looked at the reflection, and then they can tell whether the color was correct or not. And today they don't do that anymore, but people who wear it seem to think that they're the experts. But we're starting with the Barcan Cabernet. And why are we doing that?
Well, you know, it's a perfect transition from Bordeaux to Barcan, and specifically to Bordeaux varietals. So you know, if you look at the modern history of Israel, because we all know historically Israel has some of the oldest archaeological records of wine production, of domesticated wine growing and fermentation vessels and presses. But when I say the modern history, I'm really looking at the late 1800s. And if you're unaware of the French connection, the reason we have the wine industry we have today in Israel is courtesy of the Baron de Rothschild, who in 1873, plus or minus, not even 20 years after Chateau Lafite Rothschild was rated a first growth Bordeaux, which we just talked about, right? One of the best wines in the world at the time. He came to Israel, he explored, and he said, oh my goodness, we have to be making wine here. And he really helped jumpstart what is now the modern Israeli wine region, starting by planting vines in Zichron Yaakov. And when he started, it was mostly Bordeaux varietals, with the exception of Carignan. So for us to taste a Cabernet Sauvignon, which hails as a major Bordeaux varietal, I think is absolutely perfect transition. But even more interesting than that, Jay, tell us about the winemaker for this.
Well, the winemaker is Ido Lowenson, and he's one of only several hundred masters of wine throughout the world. And actually, I think Israel has, per capita, the most masters of wines, even though it's only two.
Only two.
And both of those winemakers, both of those masters of wines are winemakers. And he made this wine. It's got 18 months on oak, And boy, it seems to me, I've tasted this before, quite accessible for a wine that spent that much time in oak.
You know, it's that R word. Reserve is a term that's not really regulated anywhere in the world. There's very little rules. Anybody can say reserve. You could say, hey, this line came from the same barrel and the bottom half of it was the reserve of that barrel. It would be totally legal. So it's a term that gets tossed around a lot. In this case, though, I think reserve is apropos. It absolutely makes sense to the wine. This really is a reserve style Cabernet. And as Jay mentioned, not only is Ido making the wine as a master of wine, but he only just became a master of wine. So it's a huge honor to him and to Israel. And as you can taste, pretty great fruit of his labor.
And then we're going to go straight to the Mediterranean.
We sure are. So, you know, we were talking about how the Rothschilds really started the modern history of Israeli viticulture, and they did that in Zichron Yaakov. And the winery that they started is this wine right here. It is the Carmel Winery. So this is the oldest modern operating winery in Israel.
But I think what's also interesting about that is that a lot of people think that the new modern wine business in Israel, quality business, started in the late 80s. The fact of the matter is that Carmel in 1976, and I remember, don't tell anybody, but I was still selling wine back then, had their reserve Cabernet in some of the finest, and their Sauvignon Blanc in some of the finest restaurants throughout the United States, not kosher. And this is the Mediterranean. I think it's kind of like, you know,
well, you know,
where they've come from.
Agreed. It's so perfect. I mean, think about that. They had a 100-year jump start on most of the other wineries that we're going to taste today. But what's amazing specifically about this is, you know, we all know that geopolitically Israel is the Middle East. But climatically, from an agricultural and viticultural standpoint, Israel is the Eastern Mediterranean. And one of the things that has changed since really the late 1990s, even the first decade of the 2000s, is a shift into Mediterranean varietals. And, you know, if you think about the blend of this is Syrah, it's Carignan, it's Grenache, it's Mourvèdre, Viognier, Tannat. These are all historically Mediterranean varietals. And more producers are really moving in that direction. And that is absolutely the future of where Israel is going. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to see plenty of Bordeaux grapes in there too. But I'm just so excited about all these explorations with Mediterranean grapes.
And here we go to the chosen diamond. And, you know, originally, chosen, of course, you'd think of the chosen people, but it actually is for the choshen, which is the little stones, those beautiful stones that are on the breastplate of the chief Kohen Gadol in the old temple, and it's a blend of several different wines from several different regions.
And I'm just a Yisrael, so I never get to see those vestments. They're reserved for the Cohens and maybe the Levis, I don't know. But, you know, and this is also another Mediterranean situation. So we're looking at Carignan, we're looking at Mourvèdre, Syrah, just really another perfect example of the direction that modern Israeli viticulture is going in. And, you know, look, the oldest Grenache vines in Israel are barely a decade old, but my goodness, are they producing beautifully. So keep an eye on blends like these because they are absolutely the future of Israel.
And finally, we've got the wines from Flam. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Golan was actually born in the vineyards in South Africa when his dad, Yisrael Flam, one of the first winemakers to study at UC Davis, the finest wine school in probably the world, was making wine there. And this is his pièce de résistance, his best wine, he believes.
Absolutely. And this is a perfect example of where Bordeaux varietals meet the Mediterranean, because while we have Cabernet Sauvignon and Petit Verdot, there's also Syrah. And if you think it's unusual for Syrah to be in a Bordeaux blend, well, in the 1800s, it was very popular in Bordeaux for a little Hermitage, which is Syrah from the Northern Rhone, to hit those blends. So it's a great homage to the history of Bordeaux.
And I think that Syrah gives it a little kick of something that you can't get when you do just Bordeaux varieties.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
And finally, we're gonna now segue to the second part of our. I'm sorry, I'm here and not there, tasting the foods myself. But Gabe is good. It's back to you to show us some more of your good stuff and how you make that great food at Tierra Sur.
Okay, guys, let's check where we're at. So we have crepe batter in the fridge resting for 10 minutes. We have mushrooms roasting for about 8 to 10 minutes as well. So we're gonna start with this filling. Make sure you have a nice hot pan going. So we have a hot pan, medium high heat. Okay, let's start with 3 tablespoons of olive oil, extra virgin. You can see the pan's nice and warm and hot. And we're gonna do about half a cup of julienne shallots. So we got that nice sizzle, that's what we want, right? Okay, we're gonna smash some garlic. I say smash because we want to get all those essential oils out, and then we're going to start chopping it up. Now we want to make sure that our shallots are not cooking too fast. We don't want to burn them. We want to make sure they're nice and getting nice and supple and translucent. All right, looks like we have our chopped garlic ready. Let's check on our mushrooms. Check out these shallots, nice, right? Rendered down, nice and translucent. Now we're gonna add these mushrooms that we have roasted from the oven. Here we go. You could smell them, nice and meaty. We're gonna add these to the pan. Make sure you get them all nice and crispy, all those little pieces in there. All right. Okay, we're gonna mix this up and we're gonna turn up the heat. So mushrooms are like little sponges, guys. So they're gonna soak up all this oil in this pan, right? So we wanna make sure that we don't burn this garlic. So we're gonna add the garlic after we add the mushrooms. And now we're just gonna toast that garlic. We're not gonna get it too cooked. We still want it to make sure you get some garlic flavor. Nice saute. You can hear that sizzle. All right, our next is our green onions. We're gonna use about 1/4 cup. No fancy cut, just real nice little rounds is fine. Even if you have a food processor, that's good as well. I'm not gonna hate you for it. Whites and all. So we're just creating some layers of aromatics. So we have that nice shallot caramelized and sauteed. We added the mushrooms, now we added the garlic. Now we're finishing with a little bit of green onion. Now if I could, I would have sourced ramps. Now ramps are wild leeks. So I had that in my idea my first time, but they're hard to find right now on the West Coast. All right, guys, the heat is on. We're gonna add about a teaspoon of salt and about a teaspoon of black pepper. Cognac. Now you don't have to use anything fancy. You could use brandy if you'd like. This is something we have in the restaurant. So we're just gonna splash this little mushrooms with a little bit of cognac. Here we go. So I'd say about 1/4 cup. And we're gonna ignite it just to burn off the alcohol. So once the flames die out, we're gonna add our beef stock. All right, so about 1/4 cup of beef stock. All this is going to do is get all those flavors together. And we're gonna cook this down to its au sec, like almost dry, right? Don't worry, those mushrooms are like little sponges and they're gonna soak up all that flavor in liquid. You can see it right now, it's almost getting tight in there. The liquid's almost going away. What should we call this? Like the kick it up notch ingredient? Yeah. What do you want? No, I don't want to use that. I want to use that.
Take it to the next level.
I like that. Now, there's an ingredient that I'm going to put on the ingredient list. Hopefully you guys could have sourced some black truffle. White truffle would be fine. Even a little truffle salt. I would just use it in moderation. We're gonna finish this and we're gonna take this to the next level with a little fresh black truffle, guys. So all you need is a little microplane. And this is just adding an extra element of aromatic, a little bit of richness, and some elegance. And we're ready to go. So we're gonna let this mushroom duxelle cool off before we put it in the RoboCoupe or your food processor, and we're gonna mash it up. Okay, guys? All right, Ed, what's next?
You tell me what's coming out. We're doing the crepes next.
Okay.
Crepe batter out.
So let.
With the batter.
You're making the crepes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what we'll do.
Just right there is fine. I'll grab it. I'll grab it later. Just have it ready with the. Stay there. So mushroom duxelle is cooling. We just pulled out our crepe batter. We're gonna finish this and we're gonna start making crepes. Okay? So our crepe batter is nice and cold. Now we're gonna add a little bit of water. You're gonna add water to your discretion. We call this chef intuition. So you wanna make sure that this batter, guys, is not too thick. As you can see, when it cooled, it got thick. So we're gonna thin it out just right. So you can see the water incorporating into the batter. So we want it to be a loose pancake batter. We want it to be thick like pancake batter, nice and loose. Because what that's gonna do is gonna help you coat the bottom of that pan. And believe me, this buckwheat flour is gonna make it nice crepe. We're almost there. Let's get this nice and incorporated. Here we go, we have our crepe batter. Look, not too thick, nice and smooth. Water is incorporated. Next step, make sure you have a non-stick pan. Non-stick pan is gonna work best for you. Even better is gonna be a crepe platter. So here you go, non-stick pan. Just checking, make sure it's nice. Look at the heat. I don't have it too high. Nice and low. Non-stick spray. We're just gonna coat the pan. Don't go crazy with the spray. Nice and hot. And we're gonna use a 1 ounce ladle here. Right? And we're just gonna spin it all the way around. You see that dough start cooking? See the batter start cooking? All the way around, right? So it's not moving anymore. And this is gonna take about 1 or 2 minutes. All right, how do we know that this crepe is ready? You can start seeing the edge start cooking, right? And with a little rubber spatula, oh, right? Of course, we're not using AP flour, we're using buckwheat flour, so it's gonna take a little bit longer to cook. Usually with crepes, you just wanna be gentle with them, okay? Especially when you're flipping them. So a little rubber spatula on the corner, and you're gonna grab it gently, and you're gonna flip it, just like you're flipping a tortilla. And we're just gonna spin it, as you can see, with a non-stick pan. Make sure it's nice and cooked on the other side, just a little bit. You can even see how it's perfectly spin. That's that little trick you want right there. If it spins right there, you got a good crepe right there, guys. We're gonna lay it over here. Now, if you have 4 or 5 people at home, so you wanna make sure you get at least 2 crepes per person. So that crepes are done. Now, I just don't want to fill the crepe and then it's cold and then like we're searing the steak and then we put it on top of the crepe. No, that's fine. That's fine. So this goes over here. Move this over here.
Good morning. My name is Shraga. I am the owner of Gush Etzion Winery. The character of our Chardonnay is mostly developed in this beautiful vineyard located in Gush Etzion, in what was once the ground of Kibbutz Revadim, a kibbutz in Gush Etzion before the War of Independence. We now present you the Blaise Valley Chardonnay. You taste there 2019. I want to taste 2020. It's now in barrels. So it's the same wine that we taste. Another here. You see, I feel the barrels, the taste of the barrels. We use French oak barrels, like Tierra Sur, the best barrels. It's not everything. This is two new barrels, but because we didn't want the wood dominate the fruit and dominate the wine, we need the balance. So we use old oak, and together I think we get the balance that we need. So the wine is, you see, it's full body. It's flower, you see the smell. We think we have here nice acidity, freshness, and sharp wine. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. לחיים.
Hello Pierre, you are the winemaker for the Tufaa Winery. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm Pierre Miodownik, but of course customer of Royal Wine Corp know me because I went during 30 years to European winemaker of this company, and I built a big brand of great and well-known wine like Rothschild wine, Giscourt, Poite Canet, but also wine like Cordoba, Chateauneuf, and de la Grave. Now I am in Israel where I live, and we establish and develop the Netofah Winery.
Thank you. Can you please tell us what is so unique about Netofah Winery?
So the Netofah Winery is located in Lower Galilee, Galila Carton, in outstanding terroir, vineyard, and very Mediterranean clean and terroir. So we plant only Mediterranean grapes like Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, Roussanne, Tempranillo, and we produce and develop a brand of wine now very well known in Israel but also in the state.
KFWE selected the Door 2017 for the tasting box.
Yes, it is the Door. The Door series is a selection of the best Syrah grape we picked in the 2017 vintage. We aged this wine for 15 months in chosen and selected French oak barrels, mostly new, and we will save a very nice wine, typically Syrah, spicy notes of red fruit, and a long aftertaste, and surely a wine that you can age for a few years in barrels.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacob Ner David, co-founder of Jezreel Valley Winery. Welcome. I want to introduce you to Jezreel Argaman 2017, which has been our flagship varietal since we started making wine. Why Argaman? Argaman, we feel, is the ultimate expression of modern Israeli wine identity. Growing on the coastal plain as you're coming into Jezreel Valley, which has been for thousands of years the breadbasket of Israel and the heart of Israeli winemaking. 2017 vintage was a beautiful harvest. We had a fair amount of rainfall and we were able to let the Argaman grapes grow and ripen to their ultimate expression. We get a wine which, as you can see, is an incredibly colored wine and more importantly, smells and tastes incredible. The tasting notes, from our perspective, are a wine which has a full body, but yet is refreshing, which is very important in terms of modern Israeli wine should be, and especially pairing it with Mediterranean cuisine. And, for us, I think the most pleasant surprise of Argaman is how much drinking it, you feel you are really drinking the land of Israel, both from a technical point of view, from minerality and so on, but almost from a spiritual point of view, that you're getting this really deep experience of wine drinking. Enjoy. Jezreel Argaman 2017. Cheers.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Soroka. I am the winemaker of Psagot Winery, having joined July 1st, 2020. And today we will be tasting the Peak 2017 Rhone blend made up of Shiraz Syrah, Petit Syrah, and Mourvèdre. Delicious wine, very rich, great varieties, and very appropriate for the Middle East and warm climates. It grows very well in the area of the Jerusalem Mountains where we are, and one of our favorites. The grapes are grown at an altitude about 800 meters, and that means even in the middle of a very hot climate, very hot summer, the evenings cool down the grapes and add a certain balance and elegance to the grapes in the region. My favorite varietal would have to be Petit Syrah. It's a variety that grows beautifully in Israel, very rich, tons of tannins, and it takes a lot of finesse to get an elegant wine out of it. It's in every winery that I've worked in, it's really been one of my favorites, and Psagot is no different. It's at 44% of the Peak blend, and we get quite a bit of Petit Syrah, so I'll have a lot of room to play with. And perhaps we might even do 100% varietal one day.
Cheers!
Cheers! L'chaim!
L'chaim.
Gabe got her back here with Erik Segelbaum. We're tasting another set of Israeli wines, and we're going to focus here a little bit more about the regional aspect of those wines, the terroir. We have the Gush Etzion, which is from the Judean Hills at the south of Jerusalem. We have the Jezreel Argaman, very special variety. We're going to talk about that. More to the north in the Galilee. Then in the lower Galilee, we have Netofa Dor, which is 100% Syrah. And then we have the Psagot Peak, one of the greatest wines from Psagot Winery, which is also in the Judean Hills, Jerusalem Mountains. In this case, more at the north of Jerusalem, more towards Samaria. So, Erik, let's talk a little bit more about the Gush Etzion, which is an oak Chardonnay. We had together before the Mercury from France, from Burgundy, and here we have another variation, if you could say that, of this variety, of this style, but from Israel, of course.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of Chardonnay in Israel. I would consider it a heritage variety for Israel. And when I say that, I don't mean it's a biblical variety. There's tons of those happening now. A little preview into the Argaman, but you just wait, we'll get there. But the reason I call the Chardonnay a heritage variety is because when the modern Israeli wine industry, established by Rothschild in the late 70s and moving in for the next 100 or so years, it was really based a lot on commercial viability, both for domestic market originally, because there wasn't really a lot of Israeli export happening in the 1800s, and then eventually it became international. And for that 110 years, it was really about producing what was commercially viable. And I don't think anybody is going to be surprised to know that Chardonnay has been immensely popular for a very long time. So lots of wineries are producing Chardonnay, but what I love about this is that this is a very different type of Chardonnay. The Judean Hills are one of the most exciting appellations, one of the most exciting regions in all of Israel. And as you're going to see between our first and last wine, we're talking about medium high elevation and super high elevation wines, but this particular climate, the terroir of this region is so dramatic and unique, and it really leads to some absolutely gorgeous wines. And here's a perfect example.
So what's really striking me personally, what I am tasting, I don't know what you guys are tasting and what you guys are smelling in this wine. But personally, if I'm comparing again to the white Burgundy that we had before, which to me was a little bit more cold in terms like more lime and citrusy and a little bit more green apple and minerals. And here I get more tropical fruit. I get personally a lot of pineapple on the nose. That's what I picked up personally before, and it's so interesting. Same vintage, same variety, approximately the same amount of time in the barrels, and it's the same variety. It's unbelievable.
I think it's a perfect illustration of the fact that Chardonnay, more than just about any other grape in the world, reacts so well to both where it's grown and how it's made. We've tried 2 Chardonnays tonight that are polar opposites of style and each have their own place at the table. So yeah, really, really fun expression. Speaking of fun, oh, wait till we tell you about Argamon. You probably haven't seen a lot of Argamon, and you know why? It only grows in Israel. That's right. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And while it's a modern creation, it is based off of the Torah. It is, if I'm not mistaken, it was the grape that's referred to for dyeing the holy vestments and also the wine that was used for sacrifice. So maybe 20 years ago, I believe, or 15 years ago, a group of Israeli agronomists and biblical historians got together to try to see if they could recreate the grape that's referenced in the Torah. Voila, Argamon. And if you haven't tried this, you are in for a treat. This is such a uniquely Israeli wine. You want to talk the Israeli signature, the Israeli chutzpah? It's this wine right here, and I absolutely love it. Also, what else you should know about Jezreel? They, when they established, decided they were only going to plant Mediterranean varieties, and they're not that old of a winery. And everybody said, you're crazy. Mediterranean, no, Cabernet, Chardonnay. And they said, no, just Mediterranean varietals. That's all they plant, that's all they grow, and they're absolutely hands down one of the best producers of that style in Israel, period.
Absolutely. This is a robust wine. Argamon means that deep purple, reddish color, and that's the color of this wine. That's also the taste of this wine. Very purple, deep, ripe, concentrated fruit flavors.
So good. Speaking of Mediterranean varietals, that's a perfect segue right into the Netofa. This is a Syrah from the Galil or the Galilee. Gabe, what are your thoughts on this now that we head north into the country?
So it's great actually to taste back-to-back Netofa and Jezreel, because they both have that philosophy, like you said, of those Mediterranean grape varieties. Pierre Miodovnik, who used to make all those great, he still makes great French wines. But he made those Giscourt and Mauvial that we had before, and Léoville Poiferret. And he really wanted to focus on the terroir of the Loire Galilee. And he thought that those Mediterranean grape varieties, such as Syrah, for example, are really perfect for that region. So we have a very special Syrah that's a little bit more old world in style. And then we have, of course, the Psagot Peak, which is a blend also of Mediterranean varieties. That's Carignan, that's Mourvèdre, that's Syrah. And it's very, very special.
Yeah, one of the things that people don't tend to think about is high elevation, not just in Israel, but in general. So the vineyards for Psagot are, 900 meters. That's 2,700 feet, give or take. And when you're up that high, even in a hot climate like the Judean hills or the Judean mountains, it's much cooler at night. It takes longer for the grapes to get to ripeness, not just sugar ripeness to make alcohol, but something we call phenolic ripeness, which is like the flavors, all those subtle things that make the wine perfect. So when you're in these high elevation areas, like the Judean hills or the Judean mountains, when you're up this high, you just get a really gorgeous, very elegant expression of any variety, especially these Mediterranean varieties, which, perfect example of it here. I'll tell you, there's so much variation in all the different terroirs or all the other regions of Israel. It's absolutely worth exploring. And, honestly, I'm not even using my spit bucket because these are all just so fantastic. It's going to make the next flight a little bit interesting. But anyway, listen, you're probably still hungry. So if you are following along with Gabe Garcia, here comes the next installment of his incredible dish. We're going to send it back to you, Gabe. Keep us cooking.
Mushroom duck style is ready to go. We're just going to stick it in the food processor and give it a little pulse. We want to make sure we break up any of these big pieces and make a nice smooth spread.
And if you don't have a food processor, what would you recommend?
Now, if you don't have a food processor, guys, you can cut it by hand. That's fine, hand chop. But please don't put it in a blender. And then we just want to get a nice even chop. Let's check it. Let's slide down some of these pieces from the walls, and you can see you got a nice even duxelle. And I think we're good there. I'm going to transfer this to a bowl. Take your blade out first. Now this can go on toast, can go with eggs. Doesn't have to be filled in a crepe. Mushroom duxelle for you mushroom lovers. Possibilities are endless. Right? Yep. Okay, perfect. That's done. Check.
Check.
All right, cool. Because this is gonna reduce really fast.
Good.
All right, go.
All right, ready? And
All right, guys. Crepes are made. Mushroom duxelle is made. We're just putting it off to the side right now. We're gonna do our sauce, and then we're gonna go straight to our steak. All right? Okay. You first want to start with your sauce. You make sure you have a nice saucepan and make sure it's on medium-high heat. I want to make sure you guys feel the heat on the pan, and we're going to start with a little bit of olive oil, okay? I'd say 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, you don't want to burn this, right? We're going to do our 1/4 cup of minced shallot. So I said minced. Make sure it's nice and fine. And you can hear that sizzle, right? That's what we want every time, guys. Now we're not going to cook these as long as the shallots that we did for the mushrooms, because we want to get some cooking going on with these huckleberries. So we're going to add a cup of frozen huckleberries. Mix these in. And let's let these saute real nice. We're going to add a pinch of salt. We're going to turn up our heat. So this sauce is a play on a gastrique. Gastrique is an acid with sugar and reduced. You make a reduction out of that, right? So we're using a little bit of sugar. We're gonna put about a 1/4 cup of sugar in here. Now we're gonna add our herb. We're gonna add a bay leaf and some fresh oregano. As you can see, these huckleberries are full of juice. So you can see we're getting this nice consistency going on. Almost time to add our wine. So the sugar is going to reduce and make a syrup. It's going to create body in the sauce, right? You can see the bubbles start occurring. That means the sugar is now incorporated in the sauce. We're going to add some wine. So we're going to add about half a bottle, guys. We're gonna turn this on medium heat. We're gonna let it reduce till we get that nice consistency. And I'll show you, when it coats the back of a spoon, I mean you're ready to go. And it's just reduction time. Reduce, reduce, reduce. Okay guys, check out this sauce. As you can see, and I showed you the bubbles earlier, now you could really see that the sauce just reduced perfect to what we want. So here's how you check it. You get a spoon, and if it stays and it holds and it doesn't run, we're ready to go. So we're gonna pull this sauce off, we're gonna shut it off, and we're gonna put it on hold so when we plate this steak. We're gonna pull out that bay leaf and the oregano leaf, little stem out. Pull it out. We're gonna set that aside. We're gonna get our pan hot. We're gonna start searing that steak. All right, huckleberry fin. All right.
All right, ready, sir? Eric, speed, and...
Okay, guys. Here's the most important moment of this whole dish. All right, guys. So you want to make sure you have a nice heavy-duty pan. Okay. If you have a cast iron, that'd be great. You know, just preheat it a little bit in your oven. Or if you have a nice blue steel pan like this, it should be fine. All right. Now we want to make sure it's nice and hot. As you can see, it's smoking because I want to create a nice sear. I want to make sure that we get that Maillard effect going on. All right, guys. So steak, we're gonna season generously. We're gonna make sure we have a nice even coating of salt, nice even coating of pepper, right? Let's flip and repeat. Nice even coating. Salt, pepper. Okay, pan. Now, you guys can use cooking oil, a little bit of olive oil is fine. Not extra virgin because it might burn. The smoke point is a little bit too low. We're going to be using beef fat to sear. Now this is one of those secret ingredients that hopefully you guys can source, but if you don't use it, it's okay. Like I said, use a nice blended oil of canola or cooking oil, should be fine. So we're going to do a couple tablespoons of this. That nice beef fat. Right? We're going to sear our steak in there. Here we go. So this is almost pan frying, guys. So we're gonna add a little bit of aromatics. We're gonna add some sage, and we're gonna smash a couple garlic cloves just to get those essential oils out, right? I'm gonna put them over here. And we're just gonna baste our steak. We're gonna pour some of this beautiful oil on top. Get a nice sear. You want to make sure you have medium-high heat. Now, also, if you want a well steak or a medium well steak, and I hope you don't, you want to get your oven preheated to about 375, 400 degrees. Make sure you have a baking pan with a little bit of rack, and we'll finish that steak in the oven. We're going to sear both sides first, though. So we're just basting it with that beef fat, yeah? Get a nice sizzle. A little garlic aromatic on top. I'm gonna put the garlic on top so it doesn't look like it's burning. So you can see if you can get in here, you can see this nice little like crust forming. So it's almost telling me that it's ready to flip, guys. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna scrape off our aromatics. We're gonna give it a flip. Look at that crust. That's what you want, that nice caramelization, that golden brown all the way around. Put our aromatics on this side. We're gonna baste this side. Make sure you get that fat cap full of some flavor. All those oils from the sage and the rosemary. So I like my steak at a good medium. So I'm not gonna be afraid to put this in the oven, okay? Now, how long we're gonna put in the oven? It's gonna be about 4 minutes exact. So that was a good sear, about 3 minutes on each side, guys. Now we're gonna take this off, and we're gonna stick it in the oven. And pour some of this little fat on top. We're going right in the oven. Behind, down the line. Behind, down the line. So we're gonna adjust our temperature to about 375. And what'd I say? 4 minutes. Here we go.
How is everyone doing out here in California? Great job, everyone. Great job. I hope you're getting the energy we have out here. It's amazing. I hope you're enjoying. I'm up to wine number 20. I think so. Chef Gabe, hold that steak for me. I'll be right back with the food. Now we're going to jump over to California winemaking. We're going to introduce Ernie Weir, the first California kosher winery. We'll have him on board. And then we have Jeff Morgan, which actually started his kosher winemaking career here in this winery, right here at Herzog Wine Cellars. And then we go live with Joe Hurliman, Alicia Wilbur, right here in the house, onto Belief and to Generation 9. I know you've been waiting. We're going to get to that right away. And Chef, I'll be ready for that steak in just a minute. Now, everybody, don't forget your social media fingers. Get it going. Hit it.
Hi, folks. My name is Ernie Weir. I'm the owner and winemaker for Hagafen Cellars in Napa Valley. Happy to be with you here today. Today, we want to taste one of our delicious Riesling wines. This is the 2018 dry Riesling that comes from our vineyard, our estate vineyard in Coombsville. It is an organically certified organic vineyard, and the wine is lovely. We produce this wine for years and years and years. Actually, every other year, in the even years, is when we typically produce the dry Riesling. It has delightful characteristics of Riesling, which are tropical flavors, tropical aromas, balanced by a very crisp acidity because the area of Coombsville and the Napa Valley in general is quite cool in the evening, has warm days with afternoon breezes, and quite cool in the evening to retain the natural grape acidity. The vineyard is a lovely example of Riesling. It's not overly vigorous. It doesn't produce a large crop. It doesn't produce a small crop, a nice modest crop. And we're very pleased and hope that it'll last for a long time, both the vineyard and the wine. And this wine is one of those wines that seems to age quite a long time, which is not so typical always for white wines, but I have heard reports that 2012 dry Riesling is tasting excellent still, and so I'm happy to offer this wine for you in 2018. Enjoy. What an aroma. Tropical sort of peach and apricot and kiwi and some other nice fruits there. All of which are naturally occurring, have naturally occurring compounds which exist in this wine. We don't add anything to the wine. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jeff Morgan, founding winemaker at Covenant Winery here in Berkeley, California. And I'm sitting here with Covenant winemaker, Jonathan Haydu.
Hi.
We are working on our blend for the Red Sea red wine, and that's from the 2019 vintage, not yet bottled. So this is how we do it. Want to show us, Jonathan? What do we got there?
Sure. We've got a couple different lots of Syrah that we're going to blend together as a component, and try it right here.
So as you can see, we blend, we taste, we take notes on our computers, and this is the way it works. And then we come up with the best blend we possibly can, and we bottle it for you. Oh, that's definitely better.
Yeah, much better. Richer. More interesting. Yeah, so. Okay.
Good.
All right, guys, we just pulled out our steak, and this is the most important moment right here. You got to let it rest. So we're going to let it rest for about 2 to 3 minutes, okay? While we're resting, what do we have ready? We have our crepes done. We have our mushroom d'oxel. We have our sauce ready, and we're going to get ready to start plating this dish, okay? So first, mushroom crepe. Now, you're going to put just enough in the center. You're not going to go too close to the center. You want to go just off-centered. And we're going to be generous, right? You go all the way to the edge, and we're going to roll up, right? Nice stuffed crepe. Here we go. We're going to do one more. I'm going to roll this up. Nice, beautiful mushroom stuffed crepe. Ooh. You want to redo that one, Ed?
That's good.
You good? How's it look over there?
Looks beautiful.
Okay. Cool. All right, so we have our crepes, right? All right, now we're going to pull our steak. I'm just gonna scrape off some of this garlic on top. Look at this beautiful steak, right? We're gonna flip it over. Now, the cap is my favorite piece, but you gotta be generous, okay? You gotta make sure everyone gets a cut. So the way we're gonna slice this steak, we're gonna slice it right down the middle at an angle. You can see that? Perfect medium, like I said, guys, what we're trying to achieve. Now this is a lot of steak. So for your big eaters, this is perfect for you guys. But if you're, wanting to share, be perfect for 2 people. So you can see this nice, perfect medium rare in the center. Here we go. It's perfect enough to serve. We're just gonna go right on top. Right? We're gonna add a little bit of salt. Right on the flesh. Now our huckleberry sauce. Okay, so we're gonna go right in the center. And we're gonna do a little bit of a circle. Hopefully this dish is as good as that wine we're gonna be drinking soon. A little bit of parsley. And there you have it, guys. I just wanna say thank you and congratulations, and hopefully you guys kept up. And this is our dish that we made together, guys. Some buckwheat mushroom-filled crepes with a little bit of seared steak and a huckleberry gastrique that everyone's gonna love. And it's gonna go perfect with this Generation 9.
I need to thank the staff here at Herzog Wine Cellars, the tasting room, the wine club, the kitchen staff, the restaurant staff, everybody. All this that you're tasting, all these skits, all of this was pulled off over here by the staff and in New York by the staff. Thank you. You've done an amazing job. Let's hear it for everyone. Amazing work. Couldn't have done it with Chef Gabe. Thank you, Chef.
You're welcome.
I'll be digging in with this soon.
Enjoy.
What do you say? How was this whole journey for you? Cooking with them, getting this all ready, getting them all excited.
I think it's like bittersweet because we're used to the same old KFWE program, but at the same time, this is something new that I know is going to spiral into something great in the future.
I think this is something new, a whole new league for kosher. We're going to be doing this together more often.
I think so.
Hopefully, we'll be doing this hopefully monthly, food and wine tasting and pairings, but we'll speak about that after the show in the coming weeks. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Enjoy.
Great work. All right. We're going to bring on Joe Hurliman, the architect. I like calling it the architect. Mr. Joe Hurliman, our winemaker and architect. Go ahead, Joe.
Hello, all. I'm here in Rio Grande, just enjoying wine. Really excited about the Belief Project, both an organic wine made from organic grapes with no SO2 added. And Alicia just did a beautiful job with the 2019 vintage. It's wonderful.
One of the things we were trying to pull off is organic grapes and finding the right area, the right terroir to find ripe fruit that is going to deliver the characteristics that both of you were looking for. And number two, the next challenge that we embarked on was doing no added sulfites. We know we're right before Pesach, we're right before Passover, and we wanted to be able, some people suffer from the sulfites or they wanted more of organic, and we decided to do organic, no sulfites added. Now, the reason I'm saying no sulfites added is because naturally, right, and Alicia, you'll explain that even more, naturally, all grapes have natural sulfur in the grapes. So this, we did not add any to it. Alicia, explain it.
Sulfur is a metabolite of yeast fermentation, so it's going to happen naturally in the wine, but we certainly didn't add any sulfur in order to mitigate any of the other processes that could happen in the cellar. We did a lot of really clean winemaking. We started with really clean fruit, and we had a great crew, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful wine.
Well, I just tasting or smelling this wine, I'm actually remembering the 5 o'clock in the morning, being out in Paso Robles with you, starting the crushing process, loading the tankers, bringing it down to Oxnard, and then starting the process here in Oxnard.
You can actually beat the trucks down to Oxnard and be here when the grapes arrive back at Oxnard and help with the winemaking process again.
So speak a little bit about the wine. I'm getting, Joe, please chime in. I'm getting fruit in the front, which I think is typical for Paso Robles, if you want to speak about that. And then I didn't taste it yet. So speak about the fruit, and then we'll go on.
Well, I think that what was very important and what you and Alicia were talking about is that actually we were able to find a perfect vineyard, hillside area of Paso Robles, and we were able to do the destemming and crushing right there, keep everything very clean, pristine, to bring it down to us in Oxnard.
Once it gets here to the winery, basically we keep it clean and topped, and we check it all the time. We're tasting it all the time. Joe and I are tasting the 2019 about every 2 weeks just to watch its evolution. And we're actually getting ready to bottle the 2020 in just a couple weeks, a little bit ahead of schedule from last year. But it tastes wonderful. It's just such a nice, clean, bright wine. It's got a lot of blue fruit, a lot of red fruit. It's a really wonderful project, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
So the 2020 is almost ready. It's great. I think we've really started with something right here, and we're just building another level, another step on it, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more so we won't run out of stock like we just did with the 2019. Let's move on to, we're going to switch over from the belief on to Generation 9. Let's go to Generation 9, and I'm going to take a moment to speak before we actually taste the wine, because this was a story, a long story in the making. I would say in 2006, we had the, what should I say? I'll put a medal on our shoulder. Joe, you could put a medal on your shoulder. Joe has gone out and he has discussed it and persuaded the Herzog family to go ahead and actually produce, which was Tokalon. We were able to get grapes for Tokalon. Tokalon is by far the #1 block of grapes or district in the California winemaking, in the world of California wine. Part of it, Robert Mondavi, part of it, Andy Beckstoffer. But we were only lucky once. Now, we have been ever since. So that wine was, the grapes were picked in 2006. We released that bottle of wine in late 2008, 2009. We ran out of that, and we were in the lookout to produce something, again, at that level, something spectacular. And I have to say, Stag's Leap Joe was on your mind for many years. You just couldn't break that door open and get in there and get actually some fruit. It's different. The winemaking business is different than anything else. It's not just about how much you're willing to pay. It's really what you know and who you know. And luckily, we have the family has great relationships, and we were able to break that door open and actually deliver, which we now know is Stag's Leap. Now, I will say something. This is by far the most expensive grapes the Herzog family has ever paid for a ton of grapes. Joe, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Even more than Tokalon.
Way more, if I may say that. Yeah. But let's go. So, but the good thing is, before we even get into it, speaking about price, that we have 18 in the bottle, 19 in the barrel, and we have 20 in the barrel. And luckily, the fruit was ripe, and we picked it before the fires. So it's probably our only Napa wine that we're going to be releasing for 2020. But that's way out. We'll still speak plenty about it. Let's dive into the wine.
What you can see is just this really amazing structure and fruit component that's in the wine that shows the wine will last at least, I would think, about 20 years of bottle aging.
I definitely agree. I mean, all I'm seeing is the fruit. It's fruit. I don't see, I mean, I know you always say, Joe, I think your line is, you could produce great wine from good grapes. You could create mediocre wine from okay grapes. But over here, I think it's all about letting the grapes express themselves.
That's right. It is. Yeah.
Now, I would tag it, and maybe everybody you on social media, go ahead. But what I'm calling this, and Joe, tell me if I'm onto something, it's the iron fist and the velvet glove.
Yes. I would say that. To me, it's a beast that is under control. We've taken this.
It's a beast that's under control. I like that. I'll drink to that. L'chaim. Actually, I have something to surprise over here, the crowd. It is actually Generation 8, 2017, which for the first time is going to be mevushal. So you'll be able to have it in your restaurant setting, at your weddings, at your bar mitzvahs, at all your happy occasions all over. You'll be able to enjoy Generation 8 wherever you are, and we'll taste it right here, right now in your glass. I'm going to hand it back to you. Thank you very much.
Did I hear that right? Is that Generation 8 mevushal? Can you believe it? Breaking news out of California right here tonight at KFWE. Thank you so much Joseph Herzog. That was absolutely incredible news from California. Wow, breaking news right here. Okay, we are at Apron Masters. We have an amazing segment.
We are. I'm
with
so
Esty.
excited because I love dessert. You know, the meal can be great, and this meal tonight absolutely was. But for me, it's always about dessert. You finish strong, and then that's what you remember for the night. We had some great wine, we had some great food, and now we're going to finish with some great dessert. So we're here at Apron Masters in Woodmere, and what's great about Apron Masters is that they actually have cooking classes here. So they have all the equipment ready to go. We didn't have to bring a thing.
Nothing.
They're already set up. These beautiful boards, this beautiful
It was
fondue
a pleasure
pot.
coming here.
It was, and I think they're going to do all the cleaning up. Is that right?
That's right. I've actually taught a few classes here this past summer. I taught in the kids cooking camp, and it was fabulous. We had a great time, and I love being back in here. It's a great space.
That's fun.
Esty, what are you doing there?
Okay, so
Let's get it cooking.
Yeah, I should start
I want some
explaining this.
dessert.
It's starting to smell really good. I love cooking with wine, and occasionally I even put it in the food, and that's what I'm doing today. So we're making a red wine and chocolate fondue.
Oh my gosh!
So in this pot, I kind of
red wine.
Red wine.
Oh.
It's really, really good. The chocolate fondue, the red wine adds a really, really nice depth of flavor to it. And I just kind of got started because I was a little too excited. So we have 10 ounces of dark chocolate. You can use chocolate chips. Melted in here. Sorry about that. Melted in here with 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. For Parv, you can use coconut sweetened condensed milk. You can actually find that in most supermarkets. And then I added a little bit of butter or margarine and a splash of vanilla. Now I'm going to turn off the heat here. I'm just going to remove it from the heat because this is fancy equipment here. And I'm going
to
stir
Apron
it.
Masters.
I know. Do you know how to turn this off? Is it like this?
It's off. It's off,
I did it.
It's off.
I did it. Okay, so right in here, once you have everything nice and smooth, we're just going to add in half a cup of red wine. And the wine that we're using today is this one, Segal Wild Fermentation right here. So we have half a cup of wine that we stir right in, along with a pinch of salt, because salt elevates all flavors, even sweet flavors. So if you are kind of wary about adding salt to dessert, think about salted caramel and how good that is, and that'll give you kind of the courage to keep doing that. So we add a little pinch of salt to there, and we have some raspberry jam that kind of helps echo the wine flavor.
I love how you said
so
that.
Good.
Esty. That was really well said.
Thank you.
I can't wait to try this.
Yeah, it's really good. It comes together in really like just a few minutes, which makes it really great for this kind of
quick and easy. Maybe something for Purim Suda?
Quick and easy. Something for any time. You can actually, I think you can even make this for Pesach. It might even be possible if you make your own sweetened condensed milk. There are a bunch of recipes online. So you just want to stir this in, and you kind of want to go slowly, and it'll look like it's seizing up because we added the wine in here, but keep stirring and it'll all work out.
It's coming together really nicely.
It is coming together. And then at the end, you have this luscious, chocolatey, rich from the wine and the jam. And
you can smell it,
right?
I can really smell it.
Good. Just kind of going slow because I don't want to splash. But once you incorporate all of that in there, it's a really nice, silky, smooth chocolate fondue.
Yeah, it's coming together really nicely.
Check it out. That's it. We're done. So we have a bunch of dippers over here, and you can use whatever you like. We have some brownies, marshmallows, bamba is a really great one. We have pretzel sticks, mango, wafers, cantaloupe, green apple, pineapple, dried apricots.
What am I going to choose?
Crackers.
What would be your favorite? I don't know.
I feel like strawberry is a classic combo. So we're just going to go ahead and pour this right in there.
Okay.
Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
I don't know what we're going to choose.
We're going to choose all of them.
Okay, we're going to have
go big or go home.
We're going to have a little sampling here. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. So we can pop this back
Okay.
on just to be very fancy. And then we have these cute
Do you need to
little
keep
things.
this warm? Because quite often with fondue, you need to keep a chocolate warm so it doesn't seize or firm up.
Right.
You want it dippable.
The thing about this is that it's actually so good that you really kind of just finish it before it has a chance to do that. But if you have a fondue pot and you have kind of like a warming element to it, you can absolutely do that. If it does firm up on you, all that happens is it just gets a little bit thicker than usual. But you can rewarm it and then enjoy it.
I like that we both kind of went for the fruit because I was going for that pineapple.
It's so rich and so decadent that I want to go for some that's like
you go
refreshing.
first.
So I'm going for the fruit. We're going to do a l'chaim.
Okay, I'm going to go next.
Look at that. Oh man,
Okay.
I'm trying not to drip. We're going to do l'chaim and a bracha. Bracha mincha and bracha adama. That is so good.
Esty, easy does it. Just
Easy
like on
does
your
it,
show.
But it's an
This is
absolute
amazing.
perfect end to this meal that we had. Thank you to everyone that we had on board today, to the wonderful to the wonderful chefs and the cooking demonstrations that we had.
Did you learn a lot tonight?
I did, actually.
From the Israeli wines.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to have Erik join the team with Gabe.
It was a lot of fun to see everyone.
We had so much fun, like learning and drinking along with everyone. And guys, if you have any comments, you can leave it for us on Instagram at kosher.com. We love being part of the Kosher family. Esty with Easy Does It, and me on Sunny Side Up.
Right, and our Instagrams
you.
are, of course, Cooking with Tantrums and at Naomi Nachman, and we're always there for you to answer any questions about these recipes or about any recipes of ours. If you haven't received the packages with these recipes, I believe they can be found on kosher.com. Is that correct? These recipes are available on kosher.com.
I'm loading you up another skewer while you're talking.
Oh, what am I going to get?
What would you like?
I want bamba, and I'm going to go with my fingers actually for this one. I kind of want a bamba.
Okay, I'm going to do a marshmallow.
Marshmallow is always a winner.
But we really enjoyed tonight. It was so much fun.
We did have a great time. And also another thing about this recipe is that you can actually use any flavored jam that you like.
I think raspberry is always a winner.
I think raspberry just complements the red wine really, really well.
I love this idea to use it for Pesach.
Right. I think that you can. I'm pretty sure that the recipes.
Absolutely. You absolutely
can. Naomi is a Pesach pro. So if Naomi says that it's perfect for Pesach,
you can definitely use
then
it.
You better believe it.
Pesach. But I'm thinking also Purim Soda is also.
It's a really fun
Friday. This is really quick and easy to make. So, all right, I'm just going to pop this in my mouth at the end of the segment.
I hope that you all enjoy tonight as much as we did right here, coming in from Apron Masters in Woodmere. Naomi and I had the best time hosting tonight.
Thank
we
you,
had
Esty.
my sidekick, always by our side. The two of us are, wherever we are, there's great food and great wine. So
Definitely, especially great wine.
Thank you for tuning in, and have
a great night.
Next time.
Shalom, my name is Amichai Luria, and I'm Shiloh Winery's winemaker. I sign every bottle. So if you have any complaints or if you want to give me a compliment, contact me anytime. So what makes our Cabernet Sauvignon Secret Reserve so special? So first of all, consistency. This wine won 5 times the gold medal, the best Cabernet in Israel, from the Israeli Golden Cluster competition. It was reviewed from the best wine critics in the world and has been getting 90 to 95. This 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon just got from Decanter the gold medal, 95. So let's taste it together. One of the things that makes this Cabernet so special is its complexity. We actually blend in this Cabernet different Cabernets from different vineyards, and we select different kinds of barrels and blend it together to get this amazing multi-layered and complex Cabernet. I think that the secret, or the main secret, behind the Secret Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon comes from the vineyards. We actually use natural compost that we make by ourselves to fertilize the land. Respecting the land is very important. Making wine from fruit that grows in Israel, this is actually prophecies coming true. You can feel it and you can taste it in the wine. L'chaim, Baruch, Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. This cab will age well over 10 years. All I can say, Cellar Shiloh Wines.
Hi everyone, my name is Ornit Butch. I'm the winemaker for Tabor Winery. And for this KFWV, we're going to present our flagship wine, the Malkia 2016. This wine is coming from our Malkia vineyards, right near the border of Lebanon. It's 726 meters above sea level. It's got a very unique soil structure. It's a Bar Kochva formation, made from limestone rocks, which makes fabulous Cabernet Sauvignon. Very small clusters, small berry, very concentrated, and we are very proud of this wine. And also the Wine Spectator chose him 4 times to be one of his best 250 wines. So enjoy the KFWV, enjoy our wine, and come visit us when you can in Israel. Cheers.
I'm David Barilan, winemaker of Tulip Winery. Today I want to talk to you about our Black Tulip. This is our Black Tulip, it's 2017 vintage. It is a combination of Cabernet Sauvignon, 60% coming from the Upper Galilee, 25% Merlot, 10% Cabernet Franc, and 5% Petit Verdot coming from Jerusalem Mountains. We aged this wine for 24 months in French oak, I really like this wine. And today, actually, I could tell you a little bit about our winery or vineyards or stuff like that, but today I want to talk to you about the story of this wine. As a flagship of Tulip Winery, we're putting a lot of effort to keep the quality of this wine, to keep the vineyards of this wine, and of course, we want the wine to tell the story of the winery. For that, we chose a special label to show our story. We made a contest back in 2005. We got 1,000 drawings. We chose one drawing that was drawn by a Down syndrome artist named David Ashkenazi. And there's a funny story about this label, because when we made the launch party of this wine, the artist came to the party with his parents and started crying at the entrance to the party. Roy, the owner of the winery, came to him and asked him, "David, why are you crying? I thought you were going to put my drawing on one bottle," and there were hundreds of bottles of Black Tulip all around. And since then, Roy promised him that we're going to use only his drawing for the Black Tulip label. And actually what this label says, that we put labels on wines, not on people. And this is us, Tulip Winery. This is the wine. Hope you'll enjoy that, and thank you very much.
Hi, and good morning, friends. Welcome to the cellar of the Tepperberg Winery. My name is Shiki, and I'm the chief winemaker for the Tepperberg Winery for the last 20 years. I'm so glad to share with you today our Essence Malbec 2016, which was crafted with my two colleagues, Olivier and Danny. We grow this wine in the Ayalon Valley, which is located in the foothills of the Judean Hills. A sunny days and cool night characterize this valley due to a cold wind which comes from the mountains to the Mediterranean Sea and blowing through this valley. The inspiration of making an Israeli Malbec came to me after visiting Argentina around 25 years ago. Coming back to Israel, we planted our first Malbec vineyard in the Ayalon Valley in 2004 and launched the very first Malbec, an Israeli Malbec in Israel. This 2016 Malbec wine is a concentrated wine, has a very deep inky color complemented by a ripe fruit and a hint of floral aroma. The body is a round and a long finish.
So we have a very, very, very special final segment on wine. But before we get to this very, very special final segment on wine, guys, there's a few things we gotta talk about. And that is my father of blessed memory would always talk about, it was hard for him to get him to talk to the public, but when he did, he said, you know, everybody gets up there and thanks everybody that was involved, but they don't start with the first thing that you should thank, and that is the Lord above. So I want to take this opportunity to thank God above for allowing us to get to this point in time and for allowing us for all to be together all over the world. And without further ado, we're going to get to that next segment. By the way, just to note, my Testavan is gone, and that's because they said that it kind of had a problem with the audio. But guess what? My passion is still there, and it will remain for a long time to come.
I'm not sure what sparkles more brightly, your passion or the Testament.
So I've got to tell you that the first wine we're going to taste is a Shiloh Secret Reserve. And before we do that, I don't want to sound too much like Columbo, but I want to thank Jenna and David, Levy, and all the people in the marketing department for putting together this really, really wonderful, and of course, our hosts, both on the food side and the wine side, just too many people to mention, but especially those two, Jenna and their whole crew, and David and his whole crew. First wine up, Shiloh Secret Reserve. And I have to tell you a great story about Shiloh Secret Reserve. I'm going to talk less about the wine and more about the guy. Amichai makes amazing wines.
What a man.
And you say, winemakers will tell you all the time that the only three things that matter in making great wine is great grapes, and great grapes. Well, guess what? He does that, but his technique has I don't know, has gotten his wines to be some of the highest rated. And this wine is no exception. They're soft and round and quite delicious. So, also Old Judean Hills. Go ahead.
No, just if you pay attention to Jancis Robinson and Decanter, they just put out an article this week indicating one of the Shiloh wines as one of the top 10 wine finds of the year. So kudos to Amichai for making incredible wine, but more importantly, for help further putting Israel on the map, where it very well belongs in the global wine aficionado universe.
And keep in mind that Amichai's wines are made from exactly the same place where the first wines were made for the sacrifices by Abraham himself. So it comes from an area that's been making wine for, I don't know, over 3,000 years. Okay, second wine on the list is the Malbec from Tepperberg. And here's a wine, again, I'm going to talk a little bit less about the wine, but the Tepperberg family was one of the first wineries to actually establish a commercial winery within the old walls of the city and so of Jerusalem. So there's that, and now of course they've grown. And interestingly enough, even though it's in the late 1800s, mid to late 1800s, the same family is still making that wine. Tell us what you think about the Malbec.
Well, it's true to the variety. You have those black fruit aromas, the leathery aromas. That's, again, what I get. I don't want to tell you, what you should taste. That's what I taste. That's what I smell in the wine. Something I wanted to say about Tepperberg Winery. They have a great team of 3 winemakers. Shiki Rauchberger, who is the head winemaker. Then you have Olivier Frati, who is French, trained in Bordeaux. And Danny Friedenberg, who is from here, from New York. And he trained, he got his degrees in winemaking, in viticulture at Cornell University, and Shiki from UC Davis.
Right.
So you have the combination of 3 different schools, New World, Old World, somewhere in between, if you like, with Danny from Cornell. And you see the result in the wines. There's a balance, a harmony between those different styles. And it's really a wonderful wine, a wonderful winery. Erik, what do you think?
I'm such a huge fan of Tepperberg. Honestly, this whole flight, I don't have favorites. They've all been great, but these 4 wineries in particular resonate very deeply with me as a sommelier and as a wine lover for very different and also very similar reasons. So, I mean, we could do an hour on each winery in terms of how special they are, but who's got time for that?
And the next wine comes from a really wonderful winery called Tabor. And it's the Malkia Cabernet. Now, here's an interesting point. I mentioned before that good grapes is all that matters, at least according to many. Well, guess what? It's the first winery that I know of that actually hired an agronomist, which is someone who takes care of the vineyards, before they hired a winemaker, which is amazing. Focusing on so much of the fact that grapes is what really makes the difference. And boy, you can tell that when you taste this Malkia. What do you think?
So Michal, the agronomist, who's now been jokingly, it's a promotion, but she says it doesn't always feel like it, is now the general manager, but still involved in the viticultural side of things. I could hear her talk for days and never be satisfied. I've never met a more diversely intelligent human, especially when it comes to talking about soil and plants and vines and vineyards and life. She's just absolutely incredible. The wines too.
Yeah, right. And do you have a feeling about this wine? How's it tasting to you tonight?
Absolutely. This is really full-bodied, fleshy wine. It's got great tannins. It's really a wine that's full flavor, that's New World, but really balanced. There's no over ripeness here. It's really the finest, one of the finest Israeli Cabernet Sauvignon.
And it comes from the northern part. And I'm going to leave the last one for you because I know you have a special place in your heart for this one.
I mean, so you have to know about Tulip Winery. Forget how delicious the black tulip is. One of the things that makes tulip so special, they're located in Kfar Tikva, which is a special needs community. They only employ individuals with special needs. That is their absolute policy. And just to hear some of the stories, and we don't have time for me to get into a lot of them, but as an example, there was a gentleman who didn't speak for close to 60 years of his life. He never said a word. And after he started working at Tulip, within 2, maybe 3 weeks, he was talking more than I do, if you can believe it. This whole idea that with the black tulip, this label is the whole idea that you don't label people, you label wines. And they had a contest for the label. Again, only special needs individuals could submit. And the gentleman, David Ashkenazi, a gentleman with autism, saw his artwork on the bottles burst into tears because he was expecting it on one bottle, not hundreds and hundreds. And Roy Yitzchaki, the owner of the winery, when he saw that, said, forevermore, this will only ever be the artwork on our black tulip, and it has been ever since. So just like their commitment to community and social consciousness, apart from the fact that they're great wines, is just absolutely incredible. So I couldn't be happier with their wines.
And what do you think about the wine?
Well, let's have a sip. It's full of character. Again, great tannins. It really reflects on the Galilee, the terroir, which is up there in the north of Israel. Tulip is really a special winery. We don't think enough about the people who make the wine. You know, when you taste wine, it's everything. You know, it's where it comes from, the people who make it. What is the thought process in the making of the wine, and where the grapes come from, and that's really something that we need to keep in mind, because wine is something that's so living, that's so representative of so many things that are emotionally connected, and Tulip represents that, you know, better than most wineries out there.
Well, thank you. And before I cut to the final remarks by Joseph, otherwise known as Mutty, California, all the way in Oxnard, California, as I do with my big reveals, there's one last thought I want to leave you with. Tonight, we've been together, thousands of us, from Canada, South America, California, in Europe, in many places. So, and all the people here in New York, and we want to thank the ladies next door who did all the great foods. But imagine, we've all come together as one, no matter what our attitudes are on different various topics. We've all been unified in this wonderful experience. So I wish that this is just a template for going forward and being together for a long, long time to come. And without further ado, I want to wish everybody a l'chaim here. Thank you for being our co-hosts together. And without further ado, here's Joseph Herzog, all the way from Oxnard, California.
All right, everyone. Cheers. Here we go. First of all, Erik, Gabe, Jay, awesome job. Wonderful work back in the East Coast. And now back here to the left coast. Here we are. Amazing. Let me get 1 second. What an amazing event. What amazing. We had 25 or 26 phenomenal, amazing wines. This was amazing. How was it all, everybody? L'chaim, let's toast. L'chaim, l'chaim. Again, I thanked the team. I want to thank the 3,000 of you or more, 3,000. I think the numbers are going up, 3,000 plus that are there. You're watching from your homes. I hope you had a great time. We really worked hard putting this all together for you, making this a fun event, cooking, food, wine, and hopefully you're now ready for your Purim and Passover and Pesach, and you're ready to go at it as a pro. You have selected your wines, you know your wines, and we're going at it, and we're throwing off the season of Purim and Pesach. Everybody, thank you, good night, and may we all have a great Yom Tov. Thank you, enjoy, good night from California.